This house is named the John Lawson House, and nobody knows who lives here. Every day, this porch is occupied by a number of female mannequins,
which resulted in her death, and it was all because she wanted to win a Nintendo Wii console.
This legend is also well known in Czechoslovakia. It goes deeper though. Some of them go as far as to impersonating a real ambulance so the patients are unalived.
Vlad Dracula, a Romanian ruler that very much enjoyed watching people bleed to death.
Feature also inspired Drake's hit Started From The Bottom by telling their studio engineer,
I'm back, it's your boy Fittie to the E, and today we're taking a look at these Tik Tok videos. If you guys like the videos, please like the video. Let's try to get to 500 likes this video. If you like the chain, the link is down in the description. If you use FIT10, you get a 10% discount. And if you subscribe to Healing Stoicism, you get an extra 1% discount on top of the 10%, equaling 11% discount. Yeah! All you just gotta do is text the chat box and show proof that you're subscribed to Fittie and Healing Stoicism, you'll get the discount.
Let's talk about the Rougarou from Louisiana. This is a super popular Cajun urban legend. The head of this creature is a wolf and the body is of a man. It prowls the swamps of Louisiana looking for misbehaving children at night. The scary thing about this legend is a man can shapeshift into the Rougarou. It's said once you're a Rougarou, you were under the curse for 101 days until you suck the blood from another human. And then that human that you drain the blood from will become the new Rougarou. The human will look sick during the day, and obviously the person is not going to tell anyone that they're the Rougarou because they will literally be slaughtered. The premise of all of these urban legends is to make children behave. This one is no different. However, there are also sightings every single year. Whether these claims are false or not, this is an awesome urban legend. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, or if you've seen the Rougarou if you're from Louisiana. And follow for more scary stories.
This is a true horrifying story. Part 73. This story took place in Argentina in 2022. This is by far the creepiest incident that I have ever seen caught on tape. There's a security guard in a hospital working on a late night shift. The hospital was very quiet. No patients were coming in around that time. At 3 a.m. sharp, the automatic doors open up front as the security guard was sitting down. He gets up and greets the patient that came in. He grabs the registration papers from his desk and he walks up towards the patient to have them fill out the papers. As the security guard fills out the paper for the patient, he goes and he grabs a wheelchair. It seemed like the patient was in pain or maybe not able to walk. And then as the patient sits down on the chair, he pushes the patient towards the examination rooms. But you see, there's a plot twist to all of this. There was no patient. The security guard was talking to someone that was not visible on camera. This is the CCTV footage of what happened in the hospital in Argentina. Look at the doors sliding open. He clearly sees someone before he gets up. He asks them for the information or the reason for their visit. He proceeds to tell them to come inside. And then he walks and grabs the wheelchair for them. What kind of being is this man speaking to? Could this possibly be a jinn? What do you guys think?
Yeah, that was a little bit creepy. I wonder what was going on with that one. That's crazy.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. The Voynich manuscript is an ancient book full of symbols and drawings that no one can translate till this day. Dracula was based on a real person. Vlad Dracula, a Romanian ruler that very much enjoyed watching people bleed to death. In 1963, the Bronx Zoo had an exhibition called The Most Dangerous Animal in the World. It was a mirror. 2 fishermen used their dead friend's ashes as fishing bait and they caught the world's biggest carp. These are how Halloween costumes looked like in the 30s. If Earth stopped spinning for 1 second, everything and everyone will die instantly. A new homeowner found an old doll boarded up in his wall holding a note saying she killed a family in this house. This house is named the John Lawson House and nobody knows who lives here. Every day, this porch is occupied by a number of female mannequins. The number of mannequins, the positions they're in, and the clothes they wear are changed every day, and no one knows who is doing this and why.
I feel like that last one is pretty simple to solve. Just set up a camera right there, and then boom, the camera will tell you who's doing it. Yay! Learning with Fittie.
Alright, let's talk about urban legends from New York. We're going to be talking about Plum Island and the Montauk Monster. In 2008, this creature washed up onto the shore of Montauk. Everyone went absolutely crazy because look at this thing. Obviously, it's unlike anything we've ever seen before. It has the body of like a pig with a beak on it. There were already suspicions that weird things were happening on Plum Island because it was an island for animal testing. This island is owned by Homeland Security and you cannot go to it. Eventually, experts decided this is a water-degraded raccoon, but many people didn't buy that at all. Other experts from universities started to debunk this. Some didn't believe it was a raccoon because it was too long and the head shape is off. A lot of others speculated it was a sea turtle, but that was impossible because the turtles are fused to their shells, and they also don't have fur or teeth like this monster does here. Experts argued back and forth, but some still claim it's a raccoon today. This incident left tons of speculations on Plum Island and what's going on over there. Many people made the comparison to Stranger Things laboratory doing experiments and Plum Island because of this incident. Feel free to chime in the comments.
That looks nothing like a raccoon. Like absolutely nothing like a raccoon. Maybe I'm bugging, but I don't think it looks like a raccoon at all. If you think it looks like a raccoon, or if you even know what it is, just put your thoughts in the comments.
This is the story of Bloody Bucket Bridge. This is one of my favorite urban legends from my state of Florida. The story goes, an ex-slave woman from Georgia and her husband moved down to the town of Wauchula in Florida. She served as a midwife for the community. However, this woman was worried about the food shortage because people were having so many kids. So she decided to start unaliving them. She would take them down to Bloody Bucket Bridge and bury them right next to the woods. The community started to get very suspicious of her. Many believed because she couldn't have kids of her own, she was taking it out on the community in this sick way. Many people began refusing her to deliver the babies. The woman started to go crazy from this. And apparently the souls of the babies came back to haunt her. Every time she was near a bucket, it would fill to the brim with blood. She would carry it down to Bloody Bucket Bridge and dump it into the river. One day when she was carrying a bucket down, she tripped and fell into the water and ended her life. For many days, the water ran red with blood. Apparently during a full moon, you can still see the red running into the river. Many blame this on tannic acid caused by trees around the area. On Halloween in 2003, a few people went to this area. They wrote a blog on how they heard crying and screaming of infants. A couple of the friends that were there that day blame it on birds. Let me know what you guys think about Bloody Bucket Bridge in the comment section below. See a black ambulance in Italy? Run. There's an urban legend that if you see a black ambulance in Italy, they are going to steal your organs. The purpose of them doing this is to sell your organs on the black market. It's said that this black ambulance targets children mainly. This legend is also well known in Czechoslovakia. It goes deeper though. Some of them go as far as to impersonating a real ambulance so the patients are unalived. In 2017 in Sicily, a man was caught injecting air into terminally ill patients' veins. He was being paid off by a funeral parlor to do this. The patient would soon die from embolisms. He's been the only one caught so far. So maybe there is some truth to this urban legend. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below and follow for more scary stories.
I feel like if that's a known fact that black ambulances in Italy or wherever else he said would come and snatch you up, wouldn't that just be on the lookout? Like, look out for black ambulances. Like, I feel like that would be kind of shut down very quick because he didn't just say an ambulance, he said a black ambulance. Like, I feel like a lot of people would be on the lookout.
Used home camera footage PT.3.
I feel like there's been so many videos of just break-ins and just like somehow people are just finding their ways into people's houses. You guys got to make sure your windows and doors are locked, man. Because I know a lot of people that I even personally know in real life that will just leave their doors open. It's like, bro, anyone could just walk into your crib at any time and just start stalking you like you're some prey or something. You're like, what the hell? You wake up next to you, some dude is just standing over. You're like, what the? Like, who is this dude? Crazy.
Various moments caught on camera PT.5.
Yeah, she's crying. She's inside by herself.
Okay, honey. How old is your child?
She's 2. She's only 2.
Gosh.
I'm coming, baby. Okay? I'm coming.
Okay, 30 minutes is a long time, but 30 minutes isn't that bad. I thought she was stuck in there for hours. I'd have been like, no. Hours is crazy, but only 30 minutes not that bad. But like still, like why would you, how does she even get traps? I don't know, but whoever let that happen is definitely getting fired, sadly. But you gotta be more careful, buddy.
This long-plagued police is what do we make of the McGrady tapes? So back in like 2001, at a Blockbuster in McGrady, North Carolina, a car drove by in the parking lot and just dropped a tape outside of the building. So employees saw that and they went outside to get the tape and they were like, who would drop a tape off like that? Until they looked at it and they noticed something was wrong. This was the tape that was recovered from the parking lot and it was completely unlabeled. According to the story, they took it to the back room where they were able to play it back and this was the footage they found. It is a 40-minute video of a person's face looking under what looks like a bathroom stall, and it's completely silent, like straight uncut 40 minutes of this and the cameraman just breathing heavily while they videotape this. Management turns the tape over to police, and the strangest part is that a search canine signaled that the tape had traces of human decomp on it. To this day, whoever's behind the McGrady tape is a mystery.
True Snapchat horror story. A naive 16-year-old girl chats with the boy she meets on Snapchat, but little does she know that this would lead to something far more sinister. One night while at home with her mother, the girl receives a text from the boy claiming to be outside her house. The girl looks out the window, but no one is there. Later that night, as she prepares for bed, she receives another text. I'm in your house. Her mother searches the entire home, but no one is found. The next morning, the girl returns to her bedroom, but she notices her shoe boxes, once perfectly organized, were moved. As she crouches down to fix them, she sees something out the corner of her eye. It's the boy from Snapchat hiding under her bed.
Yeah, I'd be creeped out. I was just telling my homie the other day how Snapchat has this thing called the Snap Maps. We can literally, if you have your location on, of course, you can literally track where anyone is at all times if they're on Snapchat. And I was like, bro, I feel like someone could take that idea and just go crazy. Like, see, oh, there's a bunch of people at this gathering on Snapchat. I'm going there. Like, scary. Trust.
I would have peed myself if I saw this. So Sale was a paper delivery boy years ago, and what he saw on his route is terrifying. Before we dive in, if you love ghost stories, make sure you check out my podcast. This week's episode is all ghost stories from listeners. So when Sale was a paper delivery boy, he always delivered to this one house in his neighborhood where an old woman lived. She was not in great health, so she actually had given him a key so he could let himself in and leave the paper on the table. One day he lets himself in the middle of the day, and he sees that she's in her room lying in her bed fully asleep. This is not normal for her, so he calls to her, but she doesn't answer. So he puts the paper on the table and he just heads out. But the next day is the same exact thing. He comes into her house and she's asleep in her room, not moving and not answering. So he's like, okay, if I come back tomorrow and it's the same thing, I'm going to call for help. Except the next day when he arrives, she greets him at the door. And she's saying things like, thank you so much for delivering my paper. I loved seeing you around. I'm gonna miss you. And he's like, okay, that's kind of weird. So the next day he comes back to deliver the paper and there's cars all outside. So Sale runs up to a police officer and is like, what's going on? And the police calmly explains that the woman in the house had passed away days prior and a neighbor finally noticed and called it in. So then who did Sale see when he went to the house?
Can I show you a scary video?
No, because I'm actually terrified. This video is so creepy. And I'm surprised that not a lot of people are talking about this video.
This video was posted by user Juan Ryder, and as you can see, the videos are going viral. It was posted on February 16th. In the video, Juan claims to be working alone at work when suddenly he sees this. Pay close attention to this area.
Quiero que chequen algo en esa tarima de ahí. Eso. Y chequen, estoy yo solo. Mira aquí. Ni de este lado, ni para acá. Vean, nada.
I'm looking at it like, bro, this could be his coworker, dude. Like, let's be real. Could be his coworker. It was just like, it was literally just a shadow. At least that's what I think it was. I think it was just a shadow.
What's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 39. In 2007, a woman entered a radio contest in which she ended up drinking 1.5 gallons of water, which resulted in her death, and it was all because she wanted to win a Nintendo Wii console. There's an invention known as a mort safe, and its whole objective is to protect dead bodies from grave robbers and necrophiliacs, which are people that do inappropriate things with dead bodies. On the island of Sardinia, there's a type of goat cheese, and its main ingredient is, I kid you not, maggots. At a combined length of 25 feet, you could easily use your intestines as a rope and rappel from the 3rd floor of any building. That's pretty terrifying to know that your intestines are that long.
Not only that long, but that stretchy. Like, you could really grapple from that. That means it can hold your weight.
Very facts you wish you never knew. Don't try to look at yourself in the mirror at the middle of the night, because from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. your reflection isn't actually you.
Okay. So if it isn't me, then who is it? It's just someone else. You look at yourself, it's just, like, let's say you're just white, you look at yourself in the mirror at 3 to 5 a.m., you're just black. You're like, what?
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 38. The reason dogs love chew toys so much, and the reason why they like squeaking them and ripping them apart, is because it simulates them killing their prey. It is said that if you consistently don't get enough sleep, that your brain may begin to start eating itself, so get your rest. Eating 4 tablespoons of salt at once could kill an adult, and eating 3 could kill a child. Please don't do anything with this information. This is extremely terrifying, but 1/3 of the murders that occur in the United States go unsolved.
Hey, 1/3 is not a bad ratio compared to most countries, man. 1/3 is actually pretty well. I'm not gonna lie. It's not amazing, but it's pretty well. Yeah, The Simpsons are actually known for predicting like a lot of different things. It's actually a little bit interesting how they just know so much. I wonder who's working in the backgrounds. What if they got a secret CIA member just like, yeah, you know, so 9/11 is gonna happen in a couple years. We got the MK Ultra, we got the stone things we're gonna find soon, the actual UFO sightings that everyone, Donald Trump, the reptilian presidents, like We have all these things coming up, guys. Just put them in right now, so then when it actually comes up, people are like, yo, we gotta watch The Simpsons. I don't know, bro. I'm just yeah.
Things you may not know about your favorite rapper, Future Edition. Let's get it. Number 1. Future has written hits for many other artists, including several uncredited Kanye songs and even the melody for Beyonce's Drunk in Love. Number 2. Future also inspired Drake's hit Started From the Bottom by telling their studio engineer to start it from the bottom several times. Number 3. You might just think of Future as a trap legend, but he's actually one of the biggest pop stars ever with the 4th most Hot 100 entries of all time.
Yeah, that man Future's been blowing up even more lately. Like, Future is on his own timing. Good artist.
Well, police in Yukon, Oklahoma received a call yesterday at 9:35 in the morning from a 10-year-old little boy claiming that he woke up and found the other 5 people in the home to be deceased. When police arrived, they said it was a total massacre. In a press conference this morning, police announced that 42-year-old Jonathan Candy had gotten into an altercation the night before with his wife, 39-year-old Lindsay Candy, and at that point, he got out his firearm and shot her numerous times. He then systematically went through the house and unalived his 3 kids. They're 18-year-old Dylan, 14-year-old Ethan, and 12-year-old Lucas. This is an older photo from 2017, but it's the only one I could find so far. The police said they're unsure why that 4th child was left unharmed. Lindsay and one of the kids was found downstairs, and the other 2 kids were found upstairs, and they said that one of them was in their bed. And they don't know if anybody tried to fight back, but they believe that pretty much as soon as he saw one of them, he just took their life immediately. It was also reported that there was never any kind of history of domestic issues within the home, so nobody really has a clue what made him decide to do that. Prayers going up to the family and the friends. I can't even imagine.
Wholesome facts that'll make your day slightly better, part 1. When a human sees a puppy, a chemical called dopamine is released in the brain. Elephants also release dopamine when they see people, meaning that they think we're cute in the same way we think puppies are cute. There's a YouTube channel called Dad, How Do I that teaches young people things that would typically be taught by a father figure. From how to change a tire to how to tie a tie, fans of the channel think it's super helpful. When you're on a walk with your dog and they stop to take a dump, you may notice that your fluffy friend is staring at you as they poop. They do this because they're in a defenseless position and they're trusting you to keep them safe. There are more public libraries in the US than McDonald's. After the horrific events of 9/11, a small Kenyan tribe known as the Maasai people gave 14 cows to the US in their support. The man who played Mickey Mouse ended up marrying the woman who played Minnie Mouse, meaning that true love actually exists.
These are animals that were scarier than dinosaurs, part 2. The Helicoprion was a 20 to 25 foot fish that existed around 270 million years ago. It was discovered when paleontologists started examining a mysterious fossil that contained a row of teeth and swirled. It was given its name after a scientist concluded that the fossil came from a shark-like fish, and it was believed that the teeth were located on top of its nose, while others believed that the teeth were attached to the lower jaw, or even on its dorsal fin or down its throat. Either way, a shark with a saw for teeth is terrifying. Next, the Forest Racidae is nicknamed the terror bird for a good reason. After dinosaurs went extinct, these 10-foot birds became the top predator in South America for 60 million years. Their beaks could easily break the spine of a horse and crush the skull of their prey with one headbutt. They also had the same feet as T-Rexes. And lastly, the Titanoboa is considered to be the biggest snake to ever exist, with a measurement of 50 feet in length, 10 times the size of a green anaconda. It lived 60 million years ago in what's now Colombia, and scientists were conflicted when studying this creature as it defied the laws of gravity. Usually, most land animals don't grow as large as this is because of gravity, but those that live in water don't deal with the same issue, which is why we have creatures like the blue whale. So many believe that the Titanoboa spent a lot of time in water. Not to mention, it also preyed on crocodiles. So if one still exists, stay on land.
Disclaimer, depending on when you're watching this, there might just be a gender war in the comments, which is crazy because we're talking about baboons, so you probably know the deal with baboons, right? Usually the biggest, most belligerent alpha males, you know, the top ape, they're the ones that get the most, you know, while the lesser males, the best they can do is get the scraps. And how does a baboon become an alpha? Oh, easy. Violence. Lots of it. It's like a vicious cycle. If the most aggressive baboons are the ones doing the most gooning, the more baboonery becomes generational. Except the cycle did break at one point. There was a point, I think it was like in the 1980s or something, where a bunch of baboons ate at a garbage dump, caught tuberculosis, and took a permanent leave from life. Oh, they dead. And with a lot of the aggro males out of commission, that left a lot of mild-mannered survivors. Now, you might think they took the opportunity to start big flexing, like on some bully become the bullies type shit. Actually, no, they were in fact chill like that. that. Now, normally the alpha males would regularly have temper tantrums and would beat on other males, females, and if you were an unsupervised minor, you could really get the Hulk to Loki treatment. But nah, these new males were kinder. They would spend more time grooming females, but not like in the weird YouTuber kind of way, and they would even babysit for other females. And you know, since male baboons leave their birth troop to join a new one, new members would see this and be like, oh, so this is what we doing? I bet. Basically, there was a whole culture shift, and all it took was the bullies getting blacklisted from the census. And yeah, we're still talking about baboons here. The same ones that jump leopards and eat baby gazelles fresh out the womb. Those baboons, the more you know.
A high school football star who took his own life after falling victim to a sextortion scam is finally seeing justice. Nigerian brothers Samuel and Samson Ogoshi posed as a woman on Instagram and tricked 17-year-old Jordan DeMay into sending them intimate photos. They demanded the teen send them $1,000, threatening to share the pictures with his friends and family if he didn't pay up. 6 hours later, DeMay was found dead. His last message was, "I'm killing you now because of you." Now the scammers have pleaded guilty to conspiring to exploit teenage boys.
You know how many people have hit me up talking about, hey dude, if you send me this and that, I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then they still try to scam. I'm like, bro, I didn't even send you anything. How are you going to try to ask me for $100?
The infamous case of the woman that cut off her husband's manhood. When Lorena married John Bobbitt, she thought that it was going to be happily ever after. But in reality, John started hurting Lorena the second they tied the knot. Physically, emotionally, and then he started essaying her. This guy was a huge a-hole. Unemployed while his wife worked 2 jobs, forced Lorena to end a pregnancy that she wanted to keep. Cheating on her. On top of all of that, he would go out, get super drunk every night, then come home and essay Lorena. Then one night in June of 1993, after John essayed his wife and passed out drunk, his wife Lorena went to the kitchen to get herself a glass of water, where a large cutting instrument was in plain view, which Lorena took back into her bedroom and cut off John's member. She then got in her car and left and threw it out the car window. But somehow they were able to find it in time and reattach it after a 9-hour surgery. There was actually 2 trials in this story, one for what Lorena did to John and one for what John did to Lorena, and they were actually both found not guilty. They obviously divorced and went on to live very different lives. Today, Lorena is a wife and mother, and also the founder of her own foundation against domestic violence. After the incident, John went on to star in some adult movies. Today, he's unemployed and has been married and divorced 3 times. And just last week, he publicly announced that after drinking contaminated water, he had to have all 10 of his toes recently amputated, which doctors were unable to reattach.
I'm trying to figure out, like, when she was cutting his off, like, did he wake up, was like, ah, was he like, what the was he like, what, like, how do you react to that?
Is this AI? Netflix is facing criticism for allegedly using computer-generated images in a true crime documentary. What Jennifer did details how then 24-year-old Jennifer Pan arranged a kill-hire attack on her parents, but what's really haunting viewers is some of the uncanny pictures used in the movie. In one of the photos in question, Pan's hands appear to be missing fingers, and parts of the background look warped. In another, her ears and teeth look amiss. Now viewers are questioning whether or not the use of AI in documentaries is ethical. So what do you think? Is there a serial killer terrorizing Texas? 2 bodies have been found in Austin's Lady Bird Lake, bringing the total to 12 since 2022. Police say the deaths are likely accidental due to the lake's proximity to popular nightlife spots, but rumors of a possible Rainy Street Ripper continue to swirl as the bodies keep piling up. While cops have ruled out foul play in several cases, at least 1 death remains unsolved. One local bartender has a hard time accepting there's not something more sinister at play, saying, "I find it hard to see how people could leave Rainy and end up at the lake. You have to walk blocks to get there."
The Egyptian woman that you just saw in that video, Manar Sami, was sentenced to 3 years in prison for the content she posted on TikTok. But what exactly was she posting on TikTok that got her sent to prison? Well, nothing out of the ordinary. Dancing, lip syncing, and basic innocuous content. But she was arrested in 2020 on charges of, I'm going to read this to you, inciting debauchery, immorality, and stirring up instincts. Yes, she was arrested for immorality and inciting debauchery with her dancing TikTok videos. Well, Manar, like I said, was eventually sentenced to 3 years in prison. This happened back in 2020 when a number of Egyptian female TikTok influencers were randomly targeted and sentenced to prison time. After being found guilty, she was also ordered to pay 300,000 Egyptian pounds to the government. She did eventually get out of prison though, and she's still active here on TikTok. And over on Instagram too. I just couldn't believe it when I saw that video and saw that content like that got her sentenced to 3 years in prison. It's pretty wild to me.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely crazy how 5 seconds of content just ruined her whole life, give her 3 years in prison. And I know damn well TikTok is not paying her that much to give them boys 300 pounds. In my opinion, it's why people that hate the US, I'm like, dude, you have it so easy here. You go to other countries, you get arrested for making a TikTok. Like, what?
With Shannon, stingrays are pregnant all the time, right? Who cares? Wrong, because this stingray is in a tank of all other female stingrays and some sharks.
So stingrays are one of the few animals able to do parthenogenesis, which is just cloning themselves without fertilization, aka they need a man about as much as a fish needs a bicycle, which is not at all. And as close cousins of stingrays, some sharks like hammerheads and blacktips can parthenogenesis as well. Komodo dragons and zoos have been known to do the multiplying matches trick too. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know everything. I googled the number and apparently there's over 80 animals that can have an immaculate conception. But that really shouldn't be surprising. There's an animal that only ever uses this because they got the opposite of a sausage party. They got clouder power. Clouder is a name for a group of cats. This is a whiptail lizard, and every single one alive is a female. There are no males in existence. Where did they come from? Where they all go? Don't ask me. I honestly don't know. If someone more knowledgeable than me wants to drop the facts, please do. I'll pin you. But yeah, they're all female, and they all use parthenogenesis. But the freaky part is they still gotta, like, how am I gonna say this? Basically what I'm afraid Godline's finna do to me, these lesbianist lizards pretend to do to each other, because I guess it triggers ovulation. I don't know, bro. I'm still stuck on the fact all the males got snoot off the senses. But yeah, from lizards to dragons, from pythons to water placemats, some animals can Xerox themselves, the more you know.
Recently, several women have been randomly punched in the face.
And a man came up and punched me in the face. I just got punched in the face. He goes, sorry, and then punches me. Punched me in my face.
The injuries range from a black eye to as severe as a broken nose. The man believed to be responsible is 30-year-old Giancarlo Zarzuela. Police caught and arrested him, but the court utterly failed. He was quickly released from jail without bail, and 9 days later at the Grand Central Terminal in New York, he struck again. According to reports yesterday, he punched an innocent 9-year-old girl, leaving her dizzy and in pain. As of now, he is currently in jail, but if the court failed to keep him locked up and removed the bail, who's to say he's not going to be released again? With that being said, if you are a woman living in New York, please keep an eye out for this man as he's extremely dangerous.
A 9-year-old, bro? That's disgusting, yo. Get this guy in freaking solitary confinement, bro. It's nasty.
Former cop showed up at the school yesterday during dismissal and took the life of his ex-wife, and then he fled. And looking for him, the cops went to his home, and then they found his 17-year-old girlfriend there, whom he got pregnant at 15. She was unalived also. Now, this happened in Washington, and the age of consent in Washington is 16 years old. So he was due in court yesterday to answer to charges of him impregnating her at 15, as well as taking advantage of her friend who spent the night at their home. So the 17-year-old girl had moved in with him, and she had a friend over that was 16 years old. They was drinking throughout the day or whatever. Then she says that she went to bed with her friend, in the bed with her friend. She woke up to her boyfriend, who's 39 years old, taking advantage of her friend. Like I said, he had impregnated his girlfriend, and when this happened, that baby was 9 months old. But now that baby is 1. He has abducted that baby, and he's on the run. Now, the 17-year-old's name is Angelica Santos, but they call her Jelly. And Jelly's brother did take to Facebook yesterday because he thought the former cop had also abducted Jelly and the baby, but it turns out that Jelly was in his home unalive. Now, he and his ex-wife do have 2 children together. She tried to change the custody arrangement because she felt like he was a threat to her and her children. She said he was emotionally and mentally unstable. He had been harassing her so much throughout their divorce that she had to get a protection order. On top of going through that, he was also dealing with the issue with the 16 and the 17-year-old that he got pregnant when she was 15. Now, I just hope that in them catching him, he don't decide to take his life as well as that baby's life.
I knew I would end up dead. Those were the chilling final words Laura Cowell wrote to her daughter after falling victim to a Match.com scam before mysteriously drowning. The widower had been in a relationship with a man she met on the dating site who went by Frank Borg for over a year when her body was found in a river nearly 4 hours from her home. Before her death, Borg had scammed her out of $1.5 million. Her car was found 50 miles from her body, and her cause of death was determined to be drowning.
How you get scammed for 1.5 M's? And not only that, why the hell you sending someone 1.5 M's?
West Virginia man gets life for killing his daughter and son-in-law over an alleged incestuous relationship. On April 22nd, they found him guilty for 2 counts of first-degree murder. This whole thing happened back in 2022, and he will now serve life behind bars. He needs to serve 30 years before he'll be eligible for parole. Apparently, cops pulled up to the scene with reports of gunshots. That's when Carl Cox behind me said he had to wrestle the gun out of her boyfriend's hand to shoot him. However, his story was not adding up. Both of them were lying in bed, and it looks like they had been shot while they were lying down. They also found a few bullets that penetrated through the mattress. So Carl Cox's story behind me was just not adding up. There was also no signs of struggle. So he was trying to frame this entire incident. And of course, a good old surveillance camera caught him walking towards the bedroom with a gun in hand. And he kept lying in court. But he messed up when he told a fellow inmate that he killed those people. His daughter and his son-in-law. I'm not sure what his game plan is here. He was lying to the court but telling others what he actually did. But here's where things make sense and get really, really disgusting. One of his children came forward saying that he was having an incestuous relationship with his daughter that he shot. So I guess he got jealous that she had a boyfriend or husband and then went and killed them both. Now that is absolutely disgusting, and that makes a lot of sense with this story. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Come on, dude, your own daughter? I told y'all this video was crazy, man. If you've watched this far in, leave a fire emoji down in the comments.
This is the creepiest unsolved mystery because this man is still out there. Like, they never caught him. The media called him Mr. Cruel, and he was a predator from 1987 to 1991 in Australia. This literally looks like a creepypasta, but I swear it's not. He had 4 attacks, and they were similar. He was either abducting children or abusing them. He'd stalk his victims for months to plan out his attacks. Like, listen to this. So all of these pictures are like real police sketches of what he supposedly looked like, which just makes it so much creepier. Like, this is his first attack. He was armed with a knife and a handgun. He was wearing his mask. He broke into this house at 4 a.m. and he locked the parents in a closet and tied their young son to the bed, cut the phone cords in the house, and did unspeakable things to the daughter. All very young children. Another attack, he broke into the home with the same weapons, the same description. Also at 5 a.m., like very similar times, he bound and gagged the parents, and then he abducted their daughter. And he addressed the daughter, her name is Sharon, by her name. Which is alarming because it's like, how did he know her name? Does he actually know the family? No one knows who this guy is. Maybe this was their neighbor. And similarly, once the family was able to free themselves, they went to the phone and all the phone lines were cut. Next day, they found their daughter walking around with a trash bag. She said that she had been assaulted many times and tortured in unspeakable ways. And he gave her a bath after and clipped her nails and flossed her teeth so there wouldn't be any evidence. Also, this is all for educational purposes, of course. When the last victim was abused and abducted, her family put out a $300,000 reward if she was ever returned. And they involved the police, but she was never found again. They ended up finding her skeleton years later. Like, this guy walking his dog stumbled upon her skeleton, and she had 3 wounds in the head. All of these attacks were very calculated, and there was no evidence. There was literally no evidence. This man was so smart. No one could ever identify him. He thought of everything. And they'd think that they found evidence, they'd think they'd have a lead, they'd question people, and then they'd get thrown off. They narrowed it down to 30,000 suspects, and then they watched them, and they questioned 15,000 of them, and every time they got a lead, they'd get thrown off. So no one ever knows who this man is. He might still be out there. He might be gone by now. Who knows? If you like my content, follow my TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for more. It really helps when you interact. Also, go check out those other platforms.
This is probably one of the most hated people on the internet right now. Mr. Beast did another competition where ages 1 through 100 compete to win $250,000. During one point of the competition, they spun a wheel, and whatever number it landed on, that was the number of the person that then got to decide the fate of all the rest of the contestants whose number the wheel landed on. Number 43 was in charge, but had number 42 in their ear, basically telling them, just eliminate everybody. Now, before the contestants were eliminated, they had the chance to plead their case on why they should stay. And then it finally lands on number 11, which is an 11-year-old child.
You are a kind person. And you are kind enough to not eliminate me.
Oh, wow.
Save Gio! Save Gio!
Then we had 42 in her ear saying,
Don't do it. Now's not the time to develop a heart, okay?
43 responds and says, okay, and proceeds to eliminate number 11.
So much. You are literally the coolest 11-year-old I've ever seen. You've got tons of energy and spunk, and your future is super bright. But unfortunately, your time here is over.
EVE Online on Mac immerses you in a universe.
Your future is super bright. But unfortunately, your time here is over.
And number 11 tearfully leaves the game. However, towards the end of the game, they blacked out everybody's cube. And if only one person left their cube, they would win $250,000, which was what the prize was to begin with. But if another person stepped out, they were both eliminated and no one got the money. Well, number 42 yelled, I'm going to walk out of my cube, which meant if anyone else walked out, then they both lose. So 42 steps out, and at the very last second, 58 also walks out, just so 42 doesn't win.
I mean, realistically, what was that 11-year-old girl gonna do with 20 to 50K? Let's be real. Like, morally, it was kind of wrong, but like, realistically, sorry guys, the 11-year-old is not doing much with 250.
New details have come out in the terrifying case of 6-year-old Alicia McPhail. If you've been following, you know Alicia was abducted from her bed by 16-year-old Aaron Campbell. He's just been moved to an adult prison where he says he is terrified that he'll be targeted for what he did to her. You see, on July 2nd, Alicia was actually on vacation, visiting her dad on the Isle of Bute. He and his girlfriend reportedly watched Peppa Pig with her before bed, and then, like everyone there, they left the house key in the front door. Now, meanwhile, about 5 minutes away, then 16-year-old Aaron was celebrating the end of exams. He had about 15 friends over that night, but by 12:30, he reportedly got into a fight with his mom, and his attitude changed. One of his friends actually came up to his room to check on him, but he just insisted. After going to get some substances, he'd be fine. His friends then ended up leaving his house, and he texted the couple who was known to sell him said substances. And that was Alicia's 26-year-old father and his girlfriend. As we know, at 1:46, Aaron texted Robert like he always did, but with no response after 6 minutes, he decided to head over there himself. He then walked the 5 minutes to Alicia's grandparents' house where he lived, and armed with a kitchen knife, he simply walked inside. Alicia's bedroom was actually the closest room to the door, and as soon as he saw her, he, quote, knew that he had to kill her. From here, Aaron picked Alicia up, and he started walking with her along the shore. She actually woke up at one point and asked what was going on, but he told her he knew her dad and was just taking her home. Instead, he took her to the old site of the Isle of Bute Hotel, where he inflicted 117 catastrophic injuries. Tragically, a coroner would note that he violently shook her, and he took his time. Now, come the next morning, when Alicia wasn't in her bed, the entire town started searching. And then, around that same time, her dad and his girlfriend of course saw that they had this missed text from Aaron. They called him back that morning to ask what he needed and to see if he could help look for Alicia, but he responded, quote, it doesn't matter anymore. And oh damn, I'm sure she's not gone too far. Now by 8 that morning, a local searcher found Alicia's body, along with all of her clothing that had been thrown into the sea. Her funeral was held about 5 days later, but her mom wasn't the only mother there upset. Aaron's mom was there too, and she actually wanted to do anything she could to help. So she offered to check her family's security cameras. Now when Jeanette checked these cameras, her heart sank, because there was her son leaving at the same time Alicia disappeared. She immediately went to ask him about it, but he must have had a good explanation. She ended up taking that footage and giving it to police in an effort to clear his name. As we know, while police initially brought Aaron in as a witness, he eventually confessed to the crime in detail. He was charged with murder on July 4th, but as if it couldn't get worse, he then said he was quite satisfied with what he'd done. He was then legally disowned by his parents, and for the first time in Scottish history, a judge ruled to release the juvenile's name. In the end, Aaron was sentenced to 27 years in prison, telling psychologists that he'd been having dark fantasies for years. He's already been hospitalized several times from attacks at the Young Offenders Institution, which may explain why he was training every day for this move to adult prison. Again, reports state that he knows he'll have a target on his back for what he did to his
This woman poured boiling sugar all over her husband's body, and this case is absolutely mind-blowing.
This case takes place in England on July 14th, 2020. Karina Smith was a 59-year-old woman and was married to an 81-year-old man named Michael Baines. I tried to find pictures of Michael, but I think none are available on the internet. Michael was in need of care due to his poor health, and because of their difference in age, Karina was able to become his primary caregiver. The two had a child together named Michael Jr., and Karina had another son and daughter from a previous relationship. But in 2007, her son Craig took his own life at just the age of 25. Before his death, he went to prison for attacking a man. Following this, Craig became distressed and spoke to his mother. He said the man he attacked was a predator, and that a predator had touched him inappropriately in the past. He said, "Mom, he's a predator." Shortly after this, Craig took his own life. Karina had formed a relationship with Michael while he was in his 40s and her in her 20s. She said the relationship was positive at first, but that was until his age began to become more noticeable, and things started to deteriorate as he aged. But despite this, she still provided Michael with the care he needed. On the 13th of July 2020, people who knew Karina said she had been acting differently and was described as angry and very upset. This was because her daughter had opened up about some horrific trauma both she and her now deceased brother had experienced at the hands of their stepfather, Michael. Karina's daughter told her that when they were younger, Michael would take advantage of them both and would touch them inappropriately. After Karina heard these allegations from her daughter, she remembered what her son told her about being attacked by a predator. The guilt of Craig's suffering from such a fate stayed with her for years, and a deep rage began to burn inside of her. On July 14th, 2020, at around 10 a.m., Karina returned to her home that she shared with Michael. She entered the home and grabbed a bucket, along with 3 kilograms of sugar that she had just bought. She then began to boil a large amount of water, creating a boiling syrup. Once this concoction was ready and scalding hot, Karina slowly entered Michael's bedroom. Michael was fast asleep and totally unaware that his wife was standing over him holding a bucket filled with boiling sugar. Filled with rage, Karina began to pour the boiling sugar all over her sleeping husband's body. Michael woke up and began to scream as the liquid destroyed his skin. This mixture of sugar and boiling water is often referred to as prison napalm, due to the horrific burns it can cause. Once the bucket was empty, Karina ran over to her neighbor's house, which was 9 doors down. She banged on the door until the neighbor answered. Karina didn't know her well, but told her what she had done. The neighbor called the police and explained what happened, and when the police arrived, they entered the home and found Michael whimpering in bed with skin on his arms and torso beginning to peel off. Michael was rushed to the hospital and Karina was arrested. Karina was then asked why she did this to her husband, in which she explained what her daughter told her, and that she became so enraged that she poured the liquid all over her husband. Michael was able to be stabilized but suffered burns to 36% of his body, and 2 weeks later, Michael passed away from his injuries. Karina was then charged with murder and was then found guilty of murder, and she was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum term of 12 years. Cases like this always cause division. To some, Karina was a hero and someone who took revenge to protect her children, while others see her as a reckless murderer who killed her husband based off one simple allegation. So let me know your opinion on this crazy case.
My opinion, man, if, moms are really protective of their kids. So if a kid tells you, like, yeah, blah, 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 he used to do this to me, yeah, that's going to stay inside her for a little bit. So I can see why she did what she did. In my opinion, she should have did like a little bit more proof, a little bit more digging. But, when the emotions take over, sometimes you get reckless.
My name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. I hate Republicans. I hate Trump. And guess what? You got the wrong guy.
An update. The FBI has just confirmed that the alleged Trump rally shooter is 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks. So just to repeat that is confirmation now from the FBI that the identity of the shooter is 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20 years of age, just a kid. Now, this confirms what the New York Post had already reported about an hour ago with these accompanying photographs. There's that one there. That's the alleged shooter on the ground or on the roof, laying down on the roof, dead. 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks. That's with the relevant authorities standing over his bloodied face. The authorities were able to climb up on that roof because he's there with the authorities. In the moving vision, he is not, and he was killed almost instantly from that second volley of gunfire that came from the government sniper.
He was bullied almost every day.
In what way? Can you explain?
I mean, he would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're gonna see someone like that and they're gonna target him because they think it's funny or whatever. So it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. Like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
Yeah. You said he was a loner?
Yeah. I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but like he was just bullied. Like he was bullied so much.
And this was high school?
Yeah.
What did they, do you remember at all what they said to him or called him?
No. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance.
That's what he was saying. He said that he was actually in the class before, behind the suspected shooter here, and we have some movement here where you hear an ambulance or a car horn. Excuse that background noise. But one thing that we also heard from that conversation is that when we asked what he was bullied for, what this shooter was bullied for, he pointed to his clothing. Apparently, according to this person who says he was a classmate, the shooter would wear military style clothes or hunting clothes regularly as he was at school. So we're still learning a lot more. We can tell you investigators continue to go in and out of the scene here. We know multiple agencies are here, not just local police, but the county bomb squad. As I mentioned last night, I saw the ATF here. It's a calm scene. It's not completely evacuated. Many residents are still in their homes behind here, but you can tell this is definitely a focal point of this investigation as we learn more about this suspected shooter who, again, from what we know and from public records, does not have a criminal history, not a large social media presence. So there's a lot more information that folks are looking to learn, Tom.
Yeah, man, when I heard about the news, I was actually making a YouTube thumbnail for one of my previous videos. I think I posted my last video I posted. I was making a YouTube thumbnail for that, and then one of my friends posted on his Snap story and was like, I was like, yo, is that real? There's no way that's real. That's AI generated. Now, I showed my other friend. He was like, yeah, that's definitely AI generated. I looked up Trump shot on Google, and it was actually, it happened like less than 15 minutes ago. I was like, what the? I was like, yo, this is 2024. How is the president almost getting assassinated? Or the former president, I should say. Even like Joe Biden, like any other presidential candidate should not be able to even get close to getting assassinated. Like even if it was Joe Biden, I'd be like, how do you let the president get assassinated? Like that's so, like, I don't know. Something about that just doesn't sit right with me. Joe Biden or Trump, is any of the presidential candidates. But if you didn't see the actual footage of how it went down, I'm about to show you right now.
And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
So yeah, that's pretty much what happened, and it was just crazy to me because it's like he was this close to dying, to death. That could have been a life and world-changing event. We could have been the difference between, who knows? Like, I can't even predict the future, but who knows? But like, apparently the bullet only grazed him. You can see him kind of grab his ear right there. Could have been his literal brain splat in front of everyone. Apparently people in the crowd actually died. I think 2 people got injured and 1 died. So that means the president was pretty close to having his brains seen on into the whole world. But anyways, that's the end of the video. What were you doing and where were you at when you heard the news that Trump got shot? Put your thoughts about the whole situation and what you were doing in that moment down in the comments.
Camera. While camping, a group notices one of the girls is missing.
Has been gone for so freaking long.
They go searching for her when they hear a scream. As they get closer, they find this teepee structure, and then this happens. Never go down Evangeline Road, Louisiana. 2015, a group of urban explorers go searching for a local legend. This creature is said to be the spawn from a satanic ritual performed by a group of outcast circus performers in the late 1900s. They were deep in the woods and night was fast approaching, so they decided to set up camp. But it's what happened when one of the explorers went to pee that sent shivers down my spine. It was way darker than normal that night. The man walked about 10 feet from the fire and behind a tree. But when he turned around to go back to camp, everyone was gone, and the woods was completely silent. He called up a friend to tell him what had happened so that if he doesn't come back, someone would know why. When the Rangers got to the campsite, the scene was horrific. Blood and body parts were everywhere. What happened to the explorers, and why didn't he tell his friend that the others were dead? Never go in the woods of southeast Oklahoma. On a foggy day in 1970, a group of high school kids are cruising the back roads of southeast Oklahoma. One of the boys had to pee, so they pulled over. He got out of the truck, walked about 50 yards into the woods so that he couldn't be seen. He heard a tree snap, looked up, and he's staring in the eyes of a creature 3 foot taller than any man. It had matted hair, red eyes, and blood dripping off its chin. The boys ran as fast as they could back to the truck, yelling, "Start the truck, start the truck." But what happens next is terrifying. The boys go to the sheriff's department, and when the deputy goes out to investigate, all he sees is animal carcasses everywhere, and the legend of the Green Hill Monster was born.
Honestly, that sounds like Bigfoot to me. I mean, those kids got away safe, so it's all good. But do you guys think it could have possibly been Bigfoot? Put your thoughts in the comments.
We're going to talk about, and we just covered on Creep Time the podcast, sinister Disney urban legends. So I'm like, beautiful. And I was curious if anybody had ever heard about the mystery of the Disney jails. According to this legend, Disney never wants to have anybody arrested in their park. So if you misbehave in the park, they will take you to Disney jail. It's apparently just padded white rooms. And in this room, it's nothing but a chair and this frowning picture of Mickey Mouse on the wall. You would absolutely die. They make you sit down, give you a pen and paper, and make you write an apology letter to Mickey Mouse. Mask is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. Look at the chin. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Oh, ow. Little Red. Craziest part about the Disney jails is that they never drop character. Even when you're in Disney prison, you're still in Disney.
Disney jail? Imagine going to Disneyland and then all of a sudden you're just stuck in a room with Mickey Mouse having to write an apology.
This innocent woman is known as YouTube's most vile creator. Hi, my name is Ethan, and trigger warning, this is a disgusting case. As you guys know, YouTube will allow nudity in a video as long as it is deemed as educational. This is Leah Felton, and at first her videos did not really do well until she started making breastfeeding content. Now, let me be clear, I have no issues with breastfeeding or the act itself. What got Miss Leah in prison was that her audience was not targeted for moms learning how to breastfeed, but disgusting men. These men watched her content for the sake of enjoyment, and she knew that. Leah even went as far as rubbing oil on her and her child's body during a video showing everything. She was arrested, and out of the several charges she was facing, only one stuck, and she received 10 years in prison.
These are videos humans were never meant to see, part 18. Okay, so we all know how the Titanic sank, and we've seen simulations of what it would look like if you were there. But I'm here to tell you they aren't correct. The video I'm about to show you shows exactly what it was like when the Titanic sank, and it's extremely disturbing and scary. Also, keep in mind, this water is extremely cold.
I actually went to a Titanic museum once, and they showed, they gave us an example of how cold the water was. And when I tell you, half of those people didn't even die from drowning, they 100% died from hypothermia. And the fact that it was pitch black, oh my gosh, you're done. Scary to even think about.
There's some horrible diseases that have no cure. One thing many people know about but do not take seriously enough is the rabies virus. As scary as it sounds, this viral disease is the closest thing we have to a zombie virus. People become infected with rabies after they are bitten by something or someone infected with it. What's even scarier is this virus can lay dormant in your body for up to 7 years, but people usually show symptoms after 3 to 12 weeks. When symptoms start, you may get flu-like symptoms such as a fever and headache. This stage can last for days before the real torment begins. You will begin to stay up for days, eventually going insane from sleep deprivation. You will also experience extreme thirst, but drinking anything will cause your voice box to painfully spasm. Nothing will start to make sense anymore and you will become extremely violent and start hallucinating. This is because the virus causes your brain to swell up so much it cannot comfortably fit in the skull. You'll eventually lose control of all your muscles, inevitably leading to death. During these later stages, there is nothing that can be done to help the infected. In all of medical history, only 10 people have survived the end stages of the virus. Although there are many preventable measures you can take, such as vaccinations, when it comes to rabies, there is no cure.
Creepiest home camera footage, part 23. A woman in Wisconsin opened her blinds one morning and noticed something in the snow outside her window. She went outside and realized she was looking at footprints. The prints walked right up to her bedroom window and then back the way they came. Worried that someone deliberately looked inside her window, the woman set up a security camera outside. A few nights later, this is what the camera recorded. A creepy man is shown peering in the window. Ew. Police were alerted and shown the video. After doing some digging, they were able to trace the vehicle leaving the scene to a man named Robert Siena. According to his LinkedIn profile, Robert Siena is a global key account vice president at 3M. Robert was contacted by police but denied it was him.
Are there zombies in China? A video that was released has caused a lot of discussion on social media and news outlets. People are asking if this is the start of a zombie apocalypse, with some believing the video to be real. Others suggest it might be nothing more than an elaborate hoax, but regardless of whether or not it's true, one thing is certain. If there was a zombie outbreak happening in China, it would have abruptly been kept under wraps by the Chinese government. So what do you think? Is this the beginning of a zombie downfall? Or simply just another internet hoax that we'll laugh about one day?
911, what are you reporting? I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog. Something killed my dog? My dog went flying through the air over the tree. I don't know how it did it.
That was a real 911 call made from Kitsap, Washington in the year 1990, in which a man claimed that someone or something grabbed his dog and threw it over his 9-foot privacy fence, ultimately killing it. And the next time that he would call 911 would be far, far worse. The area known as Kitsap has been known to have all kinds of weird and odd sightings of something out there ever since people have occupied the land. This being is often what we refer to as Sasquatch. Now in the phone call he describes that there's something outside crawling around. He brings up the fact that his dog recently passed away and begs the police to send someone out there. All this is to build up to the moment that he actually realizes what he's looking at. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I believe or don't believe this phone call. That is up to you to decide. Here's the call.
I'm out here come through the window now and I don't see anything. I don't want to go outside. Jesus Christ, you better... Tia!
Hello?
Get somebody out there.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
You see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he in your yard?
He's looking at me.
I really wonder what he just saw, because he said it was like 6'9". Yeah, that's tall, bro. That's like taller than Kobe Bryant.
This is why I don't stay at creepy cabins. In 2018, a man trying to escape city life was staying in a cabin in the mountains. One morning, he stepped outside. He discovered a red ball resting in his front yard. At first, he thought nothing of it, imagining that his neighbor's children must be tossing it over the fence. He kicked the ball back, went inside and tried to resume his daily routine. But when night fell, he was awoken by the sound of children laughing outside his window. Determined to investigate, he rushed out of his house only to find that there were no children anywhere in sight. Yet the red ball was back on his property. Confused, he brought it inside his house and tried to sleep. The following day, he went over to his neighbor's house to complain about the kids, but he discovered that his neighbor was an old man living alone and there were no children in the area. That night, the man awoke once again to the sound of children playing on his property. He peered out the window, but there were no children to be seen, only the red ball resting on the ground. He ran downstairs to check on the ball he had brought inside, but it had vanished without a trace. Suddenly, he felt a chill run down his spine as he spotted a strange, stiff figure watching him from afar. The next day, the man left the cabin, never knowing who or what was outside. Follow, because my next story is crazy. She should have chosen a different apartment. Sally was moving into a new apartment when she notices a crawl space above the ceiling but thinks nothing of it. One night while watching TV, she is frightened by a tiny woman out on her fire escape trying to break in. She hides and calls the cops while the intruder tries to open the locked windows. Moments later, Sally hears something crawling around above her and notices one of the ceiling tiles was missing. Then a deranged woman appeared staring from the hole before scurrying off back into the crawl space. It took the police 3 days to take the deranged woman into custody. Follow, because my next story is crazy. She should have burned the house down. It was 1989 and Cindy just moved into her new home in California. She was sitting in her living room reading the paper when she hears a strange noise coming from the attic, as if someone was crawling around and tapping on the ceiling. Scared but wondering what was happening, she pulls down the attic access. That's when she saw it. A figure that appeared to be an older man staring right at her, and then he just disappeared. Sure it was a ghost, she called up a team of paranormal investigators, and what happens next proves something sinister was going on. 2 men arrived, not sure that what they'd been told was true. They walk through the front door and the lights just go out, and it's now pitch black in the home. Seconds later, one of the men lets out a scream and then goes silent. Not having a flashlight, the other investigator uses the camera flash to look around the room, capturing one of the creepiest photos in paranormal history. His partner is tied to a beam on the ceiling. Follow, because my next story is crazy.
Yo, what's up with all these people in people's attics, man? Just walking through the top of there. That makes me think like, yo, someone in much. Yo, y'all better check tonight. Make sure there's no one walking on top of your stuff, man. People be like, what?
Recently, the internet has been abuzz with reports of some very strange sightings in national forests around the world, and I don't mean the animal kind. It began with a 5-year-old Reddit thread posted to the community r/nosleep. In the post, a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service decided to tell some of his creepiest stories from the job. By far the weirdest tale concerns numerous occasions in which he claims to have come across isolated staircases deep in the woods where no man has ever lived. The staircases have no other structure attached to them and look like they've fallen out of the sky, or like the rest of a house has been ripped away. The SAR officer goes on to explain that, at first, he was told the staircases were nothing to worry about, but the next time he asked to check them out, he was told by his superiors never to go near them. People in the replies chimed in with their own creepy staircase experiences.
I'm being honest, that would creep me out. Like, why is there just random stairs just in the middle? Mostly if it looks like it's not connected to anything, it's just like...
I have another Bloody Mary story time. The person who submitted this wishes to remain anonymous, so we're gonna call her Kelly. When Kelly was about 13 years old, she was spending the night at her friend's house. At this sleepover, it was just her friend and her friend's older sister, who was about 17 years old at the time. All 3 girls were going to pretty much be home alone until about 10 p.m. when the parents got home, so they decided that they wanted to bring out the Ouija board and start to play because they got bored. Now, mind you, her friend's home was known to be haunted, so they were hoping for something crazy to happen once they started to play with the Ouija board. After some time goes by and they continue to play, they realize that nothing is really happening, so they decide to put the board aside and amp it up some more and go and try to summon Bloody Mary. They set up a camera in the bathroom, light up a candle, look in the mirror, and say her name 3 times. The minute they did this, they heard a loud crash. All 3 girls ran from out of the bathroom into the living room, scared. Once they got to the living room, they realized that the bedroom light was on, when all three girls know for a fact that that light had been shut off. At this point, they decided to just hang out in the living room until the parents get home because that whole scenario really freaked them out. Once the parents got home, everything seemed okay until that night. They all ended up going to bed at around midnight. Soon after Kelly fell asleep, she got woken up by a loud bang coming from outside the window. She opens her eyes and sees a woman standing in the window with long black hair staring into the bedroom right at her. She starts to freak out thinking there's no way this is real. I must be imagining on this. Like, this can't be real life. So she starts to wake up her friends. The minute her friends wake up, they all jump up and look out of the window, but this woman is no longer there. They all end up falling asleep right after this. Soon after, Kelly gets woken up now a second time by scratching that's coming from inside the closet. At this point, she's had enough and decides that she needs to call her mom for her to pick her up because she cannot spend the night there. From that point forward, anytime she goes and spends some time at her friend's house, she has some type of experience. She hears a noise, she hears scratching, but thankfully whatever it is does not ever follow her when she goes home.
What is the scariest thing you can think of happening while camping? This story comes straight from the heart of Appalachia. And if you love scary camping stories, this week's episode is probably the scariest camping story I've ever heard. So the story goes that in the Great Smoky Mountains, a scout leader was taking a bunch of Boy Scouts up into the mountains for the weekend. And they were deep in the mountains. The nearest road was supposedly 6 miles away. So that night, all of the campers go to sleep except for the scoutmaster. He wanted to stay up and read, but also he was getting this weird feeling that something was watching them. So he's laying awake in his hammock when all of a sudden he hears rustling. It's like too small to be a bear, but way bigger than a squirrel. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this man just walks out of the woods. It's the dead of night and he has no gear and no flashlight. And he just sits at the edge of their camp watching the tents. The scoutmaster's laying in his hammock trying to not move a muscle, and he ends up laying there for 3 hours. And all the while, he's thinking about how he was just reading about feral people living in the Smoky Mountains. Eventually, the guy gets up, stares at the camp for a few more minutes, and turns around and leaves. The scoutmaster makes everyone leave that next day, but he keeps getting the feeling that someone's watching him the whole rest of the weekend. I have a bunch of episodes that have different scary camping stories.
I mean, if you ask me, after seeing someone just casually staring at you, like, from a tree, I feel like I would be paranoid as hell. A lot after that.
What's going on here? Investigators say they're still working to figure out why and how Carly Russell went missing for 2 days before reappearing on her parents' doorstep Saturday night in Alabama. Carly Russell, a 25-year-old nursing student, made national headlines when she disappeared under strange circumstances on July 13th. She called 911, telling a dispatcher that she stopped along the interstate on her way home from work after seeing a toddler walking by himself in a diaper along the highway. When police arrived, they found Carly's car still running with her belongings inside, but Carly was nowhere to be found. And a nationwide panic began. Investigators and searchers combed the area, searching for her for more than 48 hours across the state. Everyone hoping and praying for her safe return. Crime Stoppers Alabama had offered a $60,000 reward for her return. She then reappeared back at her parents' house in Hoover, Alabama on Saturday night. Hoover police said they spoke to Carly, but won't share any information about the interview, but added they will talk to her again and attempt to better understand her movements during the time she was missing. But added, we don't have to move quickly. Our priority was to get her home, and she's home. Now, the child that Carly said she saw unattended has never been found or identified, but police said there were no children reported missing during that time. Carly's family has asked for privacy, but many want to know what happened. Is the public in danger? Is there a kidnapper on the loose? And what about the child that Carly said she saw? Where's the kidnapper? And what happened to the kid? This story has been all over the place. I gotta know, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that was a really weird story because, like, how could the kid just disappear and then she just also disappear? Yeah, they should really question her. Just sit down, but yo, let's tell us what really happened. Like, what were you doing that night? What were did you go out to, maybe did you have like a drink or two, man? Like, I don't know. This just doesn't sit right with me.
So my mom had an encounter with a lechuza. And can I just add that she does not live in the middle of nowhere? She lives like 2 minutes away from me. Story time. So this happened this past weekend. All of Saturday, my mom spent outside in her yard, cleaning up her yard, fixing up her yard. She likes to garden and do all that stuff. So she was literally out there all day. At about 7 p.m., she decided to go inside the house and sit in the living room. When you sit in the living room, you look right out into the yard. So she's sitting there watching TV. She can hear the birds chirping and all of like, you know, nature sounds. When out of nowhere, she sees all of the birds just fly off, like as they're scared. And it's just complete silence, like eerily silent in her yard. She then starts to hear the voices. She says either 2 or 3 females. She hears them talking and they're like ha 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 ha, like laughing, and they're like talking amongst themselves, being really, really loud. And my mom's like, who the heck is in my yard? Mind you, my mom's yard has like really high fences all around and you can't get in there. Like you can't just walk in there. These 3 ladies sounded that they were like right in her yard, just being really, really loud and obnoxious and laughing and like joking with each other. My mom decided to get up and look. Mind you, my mom's very intuitive, so as she got up to look, something told her to stop, like don't look, like don't go any further. They then start to make like these loud like duck noises or just bird noises, but they sound like a human is making these noises, and it's almost like they're mocking her and they're like laughing, and it's just whatever is going on. My mom's like, she wants no part of it, so she decides that she's gonna shut her door. Mind you, the whole time her freaking screen door, her sliding glass door is open, so she shuts it and locks it and shuts the curtain, and she just kind of stays inside the house and starts to pray. After some time, she then hears these things just kind of like disappear. She no longer hears them, and then it was almost like nature came back, like it turned back on, and she started to hear like the birds chirping and like everything else, like nothing ever happened. I also forgot to add that she has a giant tree right outside of her bedroom window. She said that that's where you can hear them the most, right outside her bedroom window, so she believes these lechuzas were just hanging out on that giant tree like right outside her bedroom window.
The Simpsons have done it again. It seems like they predicted the downfall of the Titan. The Titan is the name of this vessel that was going to go down to the ruins of the Titanic to explore it. There were 5 passengers on board the Titan, and 2 hours after their descent, they lost communication. The vessel was missing, and this morning it was declared that they had run out of oxygen and they have been declared dead. In season 17 of The Simpsons, Homer travels down to go find some treasure. When they reach the bottom of the ocean, they find a shipwreck broken in half just like the Titanic. And then their oxygen levels get really low. So people are thinking that The Simpsons predicted the downfall of the Titan. Not only that, but Simpsons writer Mike Rios also was aboard the Titan at one point. But this was after the episode aired, so it's not like it influenced it. Everything is just really freaky. I'm explaining it more on my YouTube channel, so make sure you check it out. Link in bio. It's going live soon.
Okay, so they could have predicted the Titan, but did their ship explode though?
Okay, there's a video I want to show you. So just recently, yeah, what happened? Michael Jackson's son had a party. Now people are saying Michael Jackson was actually there in disguise, bro. No, look at this, look at this, look at this. Michael Jackson, he was known for being allergic to the sun because of his skin. Okay, so he's like, so he's always wearing like long sleeves or stuff to cover himself. Yeah. So you can see here, see, he has an umbrella, always wearing sunglasses, always covering his skin. Now his son and I think his manager, they had a big like yacht party. Okay. Now there's somebody on the boat that looks very suspicious. Oh, because it's the only person that's wearing full covered, and look at his face and look at the choice of attire. People are saying this is Michael Jackson after another plastic surgery to change his identity, and he's hiding, and he's still chilling with his son in public.
I feel like someone as big as Michael Jackson, I feel like that would be super hard to play off. I don't think he's actually still alive. Do you guys think he's actually still alive? Put your thoughts in the comments.
History to make you say, what the fuck? The ancient Egyptians practiced a fertility ritual that included goats and alligators. Men would engage with the alligators by turning them on their backs, while women would go to town on the goats. In colonial times, unwed couples were required to sleep with a wooden block between them to prevent inappropriate contact, a practice known as bundling. Before departing for war, Greek soldiers would provide their wives with an olibik, essentially a stale loaf of bread intended to serve as a form of entertainment. This curious practice may have led to some unexpected consequences, including yeast infections. In 14th century France, a law prohibited men with erectile dysfunction from marrying. If accused of this condition, a man would be required to demonstrate his physical capability in a court of law, a process referred to euphemistically as bashing the bishop, to prove that his body functioned properly. If you enjoy our content, be sure to comment below if we should continue this series.
Man, I'm sitting here thinking like, damn, we have some weird laws nowadays, but back then, oh my gosh, that was insane.
In any city, in any country, enter any library you find. Ask the librarian at the front desk to see the holder of triumph. She will raise an eyebrow as if judging you, but nonetheless will take you deeper into the library. You will see a door that you could swear would lead you outside. The librarian will stop at said door and knock 3 times. A voice that sounds similar to 2 sheets of sandpaper rubbing together will ask, "Confident are thee, that triumph awaits at the end?" You must answer, "Indeed, for I do not fail." Say this before the librarian answers that you are a failure. If she does this, your very soul will be crushed under the weight of your own failure. If you answer in time, and confidently enough, the librarian will hiss and produce a dagger. Do not attack her, for her strength and speed are beyond legend. She will hand the blade off to you and open the door, whispering curses as you pass. The path is well lit, with no end in sight. Mirrors line the path reflecting every victory, good and evil, since before time began. To look into any of these mirrors is to fail in the scenario it reflects. The path stretches beyond time, and you must follow. After what seems like an eternity of walking, a large steel door will appear. A voice will beckon you closer. Keep your mind free of doubt. You must be sure of your triumph, lest you have your soul rent from you and tortured for eternity. Step up to the door and knock 7 times. If the voice brands you a failure, the horror you will see will force you to slice your own throat open with the dagger. If there is no answer, then enter. The room will be dark. The inky darkness will be almost tangible. Ask your question, what will happen when he triumphs? The room will light up, revealing a naked figure of great height, with the physique of Adonis, every feature gleaming in perfection save for the fact that he has no face. He will rise and turn toward you. Ask again, what will happen when he triumphs? The figure will cock his head sharply to the right, and immediately lunge at you. Do not flinch, or he will beat you to death and feed off of your sanity. Instead, charge. But I warn you to attack with berserk ferocity, or you will surely lose. You must not kill him, only incapacitate him. He will speak directly into your mind. Your perseverance serves. Do not thank him. Instead yell, "Thrice I say and done! What will happen when he triumphs?" The figure will scream now, the sound threatening to implode your mind, and he will describe in gruesome detail the end of time when he arrives. Stab the figure in the throat and remove his head. His head will serve as your trophy, a symbol of your triumph. This trophy is object 74 of 538. He knows who you are. Bask in his triumph when the time comes.
That's way too much remembering from me, bro. I'm dead. I'm not gonna lie.
Has Atlantis just been discovered by scientists? Many theories exist about this ancient lost city, but what would you say if I told you it's located in the eye of the Sahara? The Sahara Desert is the largest hot desert on Earth, covering an area of over 9 million square kilometers. This vast expanse of sand has long been a mystery for archaeologists and historians. However, recent satellite images have revealed a series of strange structures under the sand that could potentially hold the key to the location of Atlantis. These structures are found within the Rishat structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara. This circular formation measures about 50 kilometers in diameter and is believed to have been formed by a volcanic eruption millions of years ago. Some experts think that this structure could be the remains of Atlantis, as it matches the description given by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. According to Plato, Atlantis was a circular city surrounded by...
I don't think any type of movie gets more hate than PG-13 horror movies. So much so to the point where a lot of times people won't even give a movie a chance if they see the movie is rated PG-13. In fact, some of them PG-13 horror movies might be some of the best you've seen. Like The Ring, for example, which is an absolute legendary film, one of the most memorable scenes of all time with the TV scene. This movie is rated PG-13. Riding the Japanese remake wave, let's go with The Grudge in 2004. Terrifying, to say the least, but rated PG-13. It did not take away from the spooky factor at all. You know, 2018's A Quiet Place was also rated PG-13. The movie that gained critical acclaim across the board, PG-13. Sam Raimi directed a movie in 2009 called Drag Me to Hell, which is a fantastic horror comedy and basically a love letter to the Evil Dead franchise. Also rated PG-13. One of the reasons why this movie didn't perform as well is because of the fact that it was rated PG-13, directed by Sam Raimi. So a lot of people were like, Nah, I don't know about that one, bro. Cloverfield, one of everybody's favorite found footage movies, is rated PG-13. Did you know in 2005 there was a possession movie that was rated PG-13? It's called The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Most possession films always are going to be R-rated because of the subject matter. However, Emily Rose, PG-13. Lights Out, another great movie that was rated PG-13.
Sonic, a movie that scared an entire young millennial generation with just one scene, is rated PG-13. Insidious, one of the best horror movies of the 2010s, is rated PG-13. Made by the same man who gave us The Conjuring that was rated R. And when comparing the two, Insidious didn't fall short at all.
And this last one is sure to shock you. Did you know that the 80s classic Poltergeist, which is considered to be one of the most legendary horror films of all time, doesn't have an R rating or a PG-13 rating? Poltergeist is rated PG. Yeah, PG, like a Disney movie. However, that didn't take away from the impact or the spooks at all. Please understand that horror movies do not always have to be filled with sex, gore, blood, and guts. You can tell a movie and spook people the right way.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, I am one of those people that are not necessarily interested in a movie if it's not rated R. But now that he listed those facts, I was like, yo, I've actually watched a lot of those PG-13 horror movies and actually liked them. Put down in the comments if you're the type of person to only watch a horror movie if it's rated R, because that's me.
Creepy urban legends you didn't know about. Georgia, the ghost town of Lake Lanier. At the bottom of Lake Lanier lies almost fully intact towns, ferries, a racetrack, and multiple cemeteries. The Georgia government, in its determination to create Lake Lanier, bought up entire towns in order to clear the space for the lake after they received congressional approval in 1946. However, they just decided to let the water cover up the towns rather than demolishing them. Now, Lake Lanier has a decidedly eerie feel about it. There have been an unusual number of freak accidents and deaths on the lake. In 2011, there were 17 deaths alone. Many of the people who drowned have been recovered. People have reported feeling arms and legs in the water, but have not been able to find them right after, leading people to believe that spirits still roam the lake.
There's a theory on Barbie. You know Elf? Buddy the Elf?
Yeah.
The Christmas movie?
He was in it?
Buddy the Elf is connected to the Lego movie, and the Lego movie is also connected to Barbie, also connected to Elf.
What the fuck?
So check this out. Buddy the Elf, what was he really good at? He was really f***ing good with toys, making toys. Remember that scene in the mall where he builds a huge Empire State with Lego?
Yeah.
In the Lego movie, Will Ferrell, who played Buddy the Elf, was the big boss, the dad in the Lego movie. And then in the basement of the room, he had like a whole city made out of what? Legos. And big skyscrapers, just like how Buddy the Elf would have made. We know in the Lego movie, the boss dad, played by Will Ferrell, was a boss of some big company. That's why he's like that. That's why he was kind of like treating his kid like that.
Yeah.
In Barbie, we see Will Ferrell playing what?
The boss.
A boss.
The CEO.
The CEO.
It's also the intro of the Lego movie and the intro of Barbie.
Yeah.
It's identical.
Word. Is it actually?
Yeah.
Now you want to get even deeper?
Okay.
So, you know how in Elf, when he's...
I've actually never watched the Barbie movie, but apparently a lot of people that have watched it, they said they really liked it.
Celebrities who fake their death, Part 3. Michael Jackson.
Yo, why was that guy about to attack him just for having a camera out, bro? I'm just minding my own business, and then if Michael Jackson just randomly popped up while I'm recording, hey, don't take my camera, tell him to get out of here.
What happened to Cleopatra's children? Despite being the last pharaoh of Egypt, her legacy was not enough to protect her children from the ruthless politics of the time. Cleopatra had 4 children, 3 with her lover and ally, Mark Antony, and 1 with Julius Caesar. After the deaths of Mark Antony and Cleopatra, her children became vulnerable targets for the new Roman ruler Octavian, also known as Augustus, who ordered the execution of Cleopatra's eldest son, Caesarion, seen as a threat to his power. Her 3 other children, Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene, and Ptolemy Philadelphus, were taken to Rome as prisoners. Although they were treated relatively well in Rome, they were used as political pawns and were not allowed to return to Egypt. Alexander Helios and Ptolemy Philadelphus disappeared from historical records, and it is likely that they died young. On the other hand, Cleopatra Selene was married to the king of Mauritania and became a powerful queen in her own right.
There is a secret document from the CIA that has just been released, and what it reveals is terrifying. It's called The Story of Adam and Eve, and it explains how the end of the world will occur. And the scariest part is that it is entirely logical and makes complete sense. It explains that the North Pole and the South Pole shift every 12 to 15,000 years. And when this shift occurs, it triggers a massive apocalypse with earthquakes and giant tsunamis. After the apocalypse happens, we go back to prehistoric times, the Stone Age. It also states that the first humans like us lived 10,000 years before Jesus Christ. So, we are approximately 13,000 years after the first humans, and we are already witnessing significant events like climate change and other catastrophes. The book also claims that we are the sixth civilization to emerge from the apocalypse. We reach a certain point in civilization, and then everything resets. This would explain many things, such as the Sahara Desert once being green, and Antarctica having forests. Now, things are changing, with some places becoming colder while others become hotter. This is why there is mention of the flood in the Bible, and it's likely what happened to Atlantis. It would make sense for a city to be underwater if water wasn't there before.
Yeah, I've heard about the Adam and Eve theory before, but I'm not too sure if I believe it.
The iPhone is not what it looks like. This simple phone holds a lot of secrets, as there's a theory that the iPhone is a subtle symbol of the Antichrist. Some people say that the eye in the iPhone is actually hinting at the eye, which is the symbol of the Illuminati. And if you think about it, the iPhone is constantly monitoring your every move and listening in on everything you say. Moreover, the name Siri, when spelled backwards, gives the word iris, but that's not even the craziest part. If you look at the phone's back, you'll see the bitten Apple logo. But think about it. In what other context did an apple with just one bite appear? Yes, you're right. It's the tool Satan used to tempt humans into the first sin of the world, and now you know that.
I have a creepy story time. If this is the type of content that you're into, feel free to follow along. I post a scary story every single day. The person who submitted this wishes to remain anonymous, so for the sake of the story, let's call him Victor. Now, Victor is a medium, which means that he is able to help people who have recently lost a loved one in order to deliver a message, or if they're having any type of experiences in their home. Back in 2006, him, his wife, and daughter had recently moved to Texas. Around this time is when they came across a family that were having issues in their home. It started off very small, like pictures falling off the wall, dishes were being moved, and keys were going missing, but nothing too crazy, just mainly annoying. But as time went on, it started to get worse. Victor was called, so he decided to go over there and take a walk around. The minute Victor walked into this house, he felt it. Now, this family had two young children. One was about 4, the other one was 6. So Victor suggested that they lay baby powder on the ground to try to eliminate some of the noises and the things going missing, to see if it was maybe the kids messing around. The next day at about 9 a.m., Victor gets a call from the family. He ends up going to the house. When he walks in, they show him one of the rooms where they lay the baby powder, and very clearly in cursive, the name Casey has been written out. Now, Casey happened to be Victor's daughter's name, and there was no way that anyone in the house could have been the one to write it out, because there were no footsteps around the name, 1, and 2, no one in the house knew his daughter's name. So Victor asked the family, "You guys know anyone by the name of Casey?" The family all responds with, "No, we don't know anyone by that name." Victor then tells the family that he cannot help them and starts to quickly leave the house. The family, of course, asks, "Why can't you help us? And who's Casey?" Victor explains to them that Casey is his daughter's name. And the fact that his daughter's name was written in cursive on the ground to him is a warning. Victor believed that this was a D word that was trying to come after him because he was helping the family.
So I talk about scary things on TikTok. Not all the time, sometimes. There have been many, like a couple of scary things that happened to me.
Okay.
Through TikTok. I did an iPhone giveaway recently. Remember that?
In MOE, I believe.
Yeah.
Mall of Emirates, yeah.
Yeah. So I went to the mall, met a lot of fans. There were like more than 50 people there. Took many selfies. And was talking to people individually, one by one, you know, like, yeah, talk for a few minutes, then another person talk for a few minutes, take a picture here.
Yeah.
One guy was waiting from a distance, just looking at me. Okay. He wasn't smiling at all. That's what
He's just staring at you.
Yeah. He approached me and he was like, Ibrahim, I wanna be a part of your horror stories. Like, in what way? He's like, I want to submit something to you. I was like, yeah, bro, tell me, what is it? He just looked very off. He was not comfortable. He was sweating. He was uncomfortable when he was talking to me. He said, I speak to jinns.
Okay.
I looked at him, I'm like, what?
Stay the fuck away from me, man.
The first thing, as soon as he said that, I felt like a cold hit my back, right? Some cold hit my back.
Yeah.
I felt very weak when he said that. I don't know if it was psychological or if it was paranormal. And I couldn't look at him in the eyes. And I was rehearsing Ayatul Kursi in my heart. You know, I was saying it. I was like, how about you speak to me on Instagram? So yeah, I speak to jinns and one of them is right here and...
What the fuck?
And I can tell you a lot of things. I want to be a part of your horror stories. It freaked me out, bro. Really did freak me out. He said, I know a lot of things about you as well.
Oh shit.
I can see your qareen, is what he told me.
For those that don't know, qareen?
A qareen is like a companion type of jinn that is always with you. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. They're the ones that whisper to tell you to do bad things.
Yeah, okay.
That's the qareen.
And he could see that next to you.
It's the devil that sits on your shoulder, and for Christians,
it's
the same ideology.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that was one of the scariest things that happened to me.
Jeez, man, that's
swear to God.
That's scary as hell, dude. That's so random. Like, imagine just doing like a meetup and then someone's just telling you like, yeah, bro, I got a demon next to me and I can see your demons. I'm like, okay, dude. Calm down, buddy.
This story is proof as to how you can't even trust your own family members. Now, Heather married her high school sweetheart. They ended up married for 15 years. In that time, they ended up having 2 beautiful children. Throughout their whole marriage, their relationship was one-sided. Everything that Heather's husband wanted is what went. She didn't really have much of a say. After Heather graduated college, her husband was fired, at which point he decided that he was going to go back to school and get a degree in criminology. After he went back to school, she found out that he actually had been cheating on her with multiple females from his school. After Heather found this out, she decided to divorce him. Now, her husband's mother has never liked Heather, and there were many rumors around town saying that she was a witch. The divorce and the custody battle ended up getting really messy, and Heather's husband somehow convinced the courts that she was psychotic and unable to care for the children. Once Heather found herself alone in the home, she started to hear things. She would see things crawling across the ceiling. She tried to convince herself that it was just a squirrel until her alarm system would just suddenly go off around 2 to 3 a.m. She had to talk to one of her friends about her experiences, and her friend decided to get her in contact with a person that could find out if Heather had been hexed. The minute he entered her home, he went straight for her backyard and started to dig in a specific area. When he started to dig, he found a jar that her mother-in-law had put in there with spells. The spells were written in her mother-in-law's handwriting and sealed with her blood. She actually sent me photos of the jars and the spells and all that, which I won't be sharing on here for obvious reasons. But once the spell jar was removed from her home, she stopped having experiences where she was hearing things, and she no longer saw things crawling on her ceiling.
It seemed like that hex jar was kind of cursing her, if I'm being honest.
Welcome to my new True Crime and Art series. I talk about true crime while you watch a time-lapse replay of my digital art below. Alyssa Lamb's body was found in a water tank at the Cecile Hotel in Los Angeles in 2013. To this day, nobody knows how she died or how her body got there. Alyssa Lamb checked into the Cecile Hotel on January 26, 2013. The Cecile Hotel is known for its dark history and association with crime, and had a reputation of attracting a range of individuals, including those involved in illegal activities. Lamb was traveling alone and had been staying in a shared room with other guests. Lamb's stay took a bizarre turn when she began to exhibit unusual behavior. On January 31st, 2013, Alyssa was captured on the hotel's surveillance cameras acting erratically in one of the hotel's elevators. The footage showed her pressing multiple buttons, peeking out of the elevator, and making strange hand gestures. It seemed as if she was interacting with someone or something that was not visible on the camera. The video went viral after being released by the police in their efforts to locate Lamb. Police speculated about what could have caused her odd behavior. She was suffering from bipolar disorder, and some people think that she was having a psychotic episode. Others believe that she was having a paranormal encounter. And some people even believe that she could have been playing the elevator game, which is a supernatural game that is supposed to take you to another dimension. The video added to the already eerie reputation of the Cecile Hotel. The police and other hotel staff began searching for Lamb, but their efforts were fruitless. Concern grew as the days turned into weeks, and Lamb's worried family reported her missing. Finally, on February 19, 2013, almost 3 weeks after her disappearance, the case took a tragic turn. The hotel guest had been complaining about the water supply, describing it as discolored and having a strange taste and odor. A maintenance worker was sent to investigate the water tanks on the hotel's rooftop. There, he made a gruesome discovery. Alyssa Lamb's lifeless body was found floating in one of the large water tanks. The circumstances surrounding her death only added to the mystery. How did Lamb end up in a water tank? Why did the tank's lid appear to be closed from the outside when it could only be closed from the inside? The tanks were large and difficult to access, and the lid was reported to be heavy and required a lot of strength to close. The fact that the lid appeared to be closed from the outside raised questions about how Lamb could have entered the water tank and then closed it behind her. Autopsy reports indicated that her death was caused by accidental drowning, and her bipolar disorder was listed as a contributing factor. Many questions remained unanswered. Speculations and theories continued to swirl, and the case became the subject of intense public scrutiny. The story of Alyssa Lamb in the Cecile Hotel remains a haunting and unsolved mystery.
I've heard about that story so many times, but it's like, I wonder who was the first person to drink that water, be like, you know, this kind of tastes weird. And looking back, it's like, there was a body in the whole water supply. It's like, what the... But that is a good question, though. Like, how do you even get in that and shut it? Like, that story makes no sense.
In 2017, police arrested a man for public intoxication, claiming that he had traveled back in time to warn us of an alien invasion. Casper police said that Brian Johnson, the man they encountered at 10:30 p.m. on a Monday, claimed that he was from the year 2048. It was reported that Johnson told police that he wanted to warn the people of Casper that aliens were going to arrive and that they should leave as soon as possible. Johnson asked to speak to the president of the town about 170 miles northwest of Cheyenne. Johnson told police that he was only able to time travel because aliens filled his body with alcohol. He also noted that he was supposed to be transported to the year 2018 instead of 2017. Do you guys think he was a real time traveler, or was he just really intoxicated? Thinking about the incident that happened in Vegas recently with the 10-foot supernatural being in the backyard, I'm not so sure.
I mean, here we are in 2024, and apparently the government actually confirmed that there might be UFOs and aliens, possibly. So, if that was really a time traveler, that would be the first real time traveler. But the fact that he said something about alcohol makes me just think he's just faded. He's just faded as hell.
If you decide to visit the Himalayas, you might get a scare. The Yeti is a legendary creature commonly known as the Abominable Snowman. Alongside his cousin Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, the Yeti is the best known and most sought-after cryptid in history. It is described as a large, bipedal, ape-like creature covered in generally gray or white fur. The Yeti was part of the beliefs of the indigenous people of the Himalayas before the arrival of the Buddhists. The natives worshipped a glacial being that they considered the god of the hunt. In certain spiritual ceremonies, the blood of hunted animals was even offered to him. This god of the hunt was depicted as a great ape-like creature carrying a spear or club as a weapon. Reports of sightings increased in the early 20th century when Westerners began mountaineering in the area. In 1925, the geologist Nikolaos Tompadzis claimed to have seen a creature over 2 meters tall near the Zimu Glacier. He described the creature as humanoid and upright. Hours later, he discovered footprints of the creature, which were somewhat similar to those of a man. Interest in the Yeti grew in the 1950s when Eric Shipton captured several photographs of footprints in the snow. Those photographs are considered the strongest evidence of the creature's existence. The Daily Mail newspaper organized an expedition to find evidence of the Yeti. Group leader John Angelo Jackson tracked down and photographed several tracks in the snow, most of which were identifiable. However, there were some larger ones that could not be identified. In 2007, American television presenter Joshua Gates and his team found a series of footprints in the Nepal region that matched descriptions of the Yeti. The abominable snowman is an important part of Sherpa folklore, legends, and history. The numerous photos of supposed footprints and the myth of the god of the hunt have helped keep the creature unknown in people's minds. Many proponents of the Yeti argue that capturing or photographing it is extremely difficult, since its senses are much more developed than ours, allowing it to perceive human presence long before anyone can get close. Will we ever know the truth about the Yeti? Would you dare to search for it? Here are 10 disturbing and scary facts that you didn't know. Part 4. In 1872, something strange happened in the ocean. A ship called the Mary Celeste was discovered floating without its crew or passengers. Surprisingly, there were no signs of a fight or damage, except for a little water inside the ship. Over the years, people have come up with many ideas to explain what might have happened, such as pirates, sea monsters, or even aliens taking the people away. However, the truth remains a mystery. There exists an ancient book known as the Voynich manuscript, filled with strange symbols, drawings, and letters. However, the written text in the book does not resemble any known language. Despite numerous attempts, nobody has successfully deciphered the meaning of the Voynich manuscript, leaving it as an unsolved mystery. There might be a haunted Russian radio station. UVB-76 is a low-frequency radio station that has been broadcasting since 1982. No one knows where the broadcast is originating from. It mostly emits a buzzing noise with occasional Russian voice transmissions. There is a real book called The Devil's Bible, or Codex Gigas, which is the largest known Latin manuscript. It includes a large portrait of Satan. According to popular belief, the manuscript contains a contract made between a monk and Satan in the 13th century. The story goes that the monk made the pact to save himself from execution. 3 of the air packs found in the wreckage of the Challenger disaster were activated, indicating that at least one of the astronauts was alive all the way to the ocean. Edward Paisnell, known as the Beast of Jersey, would break into houses wearing a rubber mask and wristlets studded with nails, terrorizing women and children. When he wasn't engaging in such acts, he played Santa Claus at the local community center. There is an abandoned village found in Delaware. Due to the satanic symbols found around, the village is believed to have been created by witches sometime in the early 1900s. Approximately 20 to 30 people go missing around these woods every year. On March 30th, 1996, a mother cat rescued all 5 of her kittens from a burning building in New York City. She walked through flames 5 times to rescue each one before collapsing unconscious. She later regained consciousness and was reunited with her kittens. In 1963, the Bronx Zoo installed an exhibit called The Most Dangerous Animal in the World. It was a mirror. Shams al-Marif is an influential grimoire, book of magic, written in Arabic by the Persian mystic and scholar Ahmad al-Buni in Ayyubid, Egypt in the 13th century. The first few chapters of the book introduces the reader to magic squares, a combination of numbers and the alphabet believed to have magical effects. It explores methods to communicate with jinn, angels, and spirits, presenting them as entities to interact with using these mystical practices. Like for part 5.
They have some really good facts in that, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm kind of wondering if the Bronx Zoo still has that "this is the world's scariest animal in the mirror." I definitely want to check that out, because the Bronx ain't even too far from me for real.
These are mildly unsettling images, and I promise you some of these will just give you the chills. Up first is a picture of somebody's signature as their Alzheimer's gets worse. As you can see, it's completely normal until it just gets worse and worse. This is how unsettling that something can do this to your brain. and actually seeing what it does is very scary. Next up is a picture of a bat nursery. And if you hate bats, I guarantee you cannot look at this picture. A bat nursery is where female bats take care of their young, or in other words, just house them. And looking at it, it's just creepy and gross. This next photo is what you get when you ask AI what the word religion was. I know I'm not the only one feeling this way, but looking at this picture makes me feel unsettled in just some way. This just looks like a creepy cult, and it's very crazy that this is what AI drew when it was asked what the word religion was. Next up is a picture of two almost naked girls in the woods, eating a dead deer's body in the middle of the night. This happened recently and nobody knows what exactly was happening yet. Some people speculate that it's a ritual and others think that they are captured by somebody making them do this. Finally is a picture of a 65-foot deep crack in Utah. Just imagine falling in that for a second. Just complete blackness as you fall into the earth to your death.
Not gonna lie, I feel like if you did fall into that, you could probably get out. I don't feel like it, I don't know. Maybe the hole is wide enough, but I feel like to an extent it's not that wide. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. What do you think? Put your thoughts in the comments.
These are videos you can never watch at night. Okay, so we know how there's just some videos you can't watch at night because they're that scary. Well, in this series, I'll be showing you all of those videos, so be ready to get scared.
What the fuck is that? Oh, what's... Guys, wait!
Okay, in that video, 3 friends were camping in the woods when they suddenly saw something terrifying. They all began to run away, and when the kid with the camera turned around, he captured something truly disturbing. There was some sort of humanoid creature on all 4s in their tent. This video has been going viral recently, and many people speculate that this is actually the Rake, which is a very scary and powerful humanoid creature, which could kill any human being in seconds. I already find camping extremely creepy, but after watching this video, it just convinced me never to go camping because of stuff like this. Just know if all of your friends ever start to scream run and they start running, something's not right and you need—
I feel like every time I watch creepy clips, it's always just like the humanoid creatures with the super long legs, super long arms crawling on all 4s that are just hunting humans. Like the Rake. I don't know, that could have been played out, but like, if it was real, that's creepy as hell.
I have a Ouija board story time. Now, can you imagine if my eyes were actually this color? I would literally rule the world, but God had other plans. But back to the story. The person who submitted this has been tagged down below. This story actually happened to her mom. So for the sake of the story, we're gonna call her mom Gloria. So when Gloria was a teenager back in the 90s, she was having a sleepover with a bunch of her friends. They were celebrating her friend's birthday. Everything was going well until one of the girls decided to bring out a Ouija board. They played the game for some time but forgot to say goodbye at the end of the session. Now, one of the main reasons why they were even playing the game in the first place was because one of the girls' father had recently passed away and she was trying to connect with him. But what she ended up connecting with was not her father at all. Now, while they were playing the game, weird things started to happen. Like one of the girls felt like somebody was tapping her shoulder, but no one was there. They were hearing strange tapping noises throughout the room. The lights were flickering, but they didn't really think much of it. They decided to put the board away and go to bed. Now, there was a girl that was laying next to Gloria. For the sake of the story, we're gonna call her Monica. The next morning after the girls woke up, they found Monica in the corner of the room, hugging her legs, rocking back and forth. The rest of the girls are of course worried, so they go up to her and ask her what's wrong. The girl then tells them, "Did you guys not hear me? I was screaming, asking for help. No one came and helped me." She then moved her arms and her arms were covered in scratches in the sets of 3, like 3 scratches on each section, and her legs also had scratches. As it turns out, after everyone went to sleep, Monica was dragged out of her bed. Whatever this thing was had come in the room and dragged her out by her legs and was trying to take her away from the rest of the girls. Thankfully, she fought back and did not end up going with whatever this thing wanted with her, and I'm getting chills even talking about it. But the crazy part is that the room was filled with other girls and no one else heard it. No one else heard her screams, her begging, her pleading. No one heard any of it. They all slept through it.
I'm not gonna lie, that is a little bit strange. Are you gonna hear someone, I mean, apparently they didn't hear it, but like, how is someone gonna scream, yell, and you're gonna be sleeping and not hear that. I feel like that's a natural human response to hear someone screaming or yelling and instantly be like, what is going on, you know?
If you want to see something freaky, we'll take a look at some old footage. This is from the Theodore Brill's assisted living community, and it's security footage from back in the 80s. This camera would just kind of generally face this hallway, but one night it caught something very eerie in this particular frame. Before we get into it, I have got to say thank you to you for making my podcast, Creep Time the Podcast, number 18 in the whole country. I'm very grateful. So if you have not listened to Creep Time the Podcast, go click the link in my bio. If you look to the background of this footage, on the right there appears to be an elderly woman just standing there. What really kind of freaked everybody out is that everybody recognized this woman. The staff could tell that this was Blanche Raymond. The problem is, Blanche Raymond died 2 years earlier in 1984. Still, the consensus from the staff is that the footage clearly shows who they recognized to be this woman. Just feasibly no explanation for it. How do we explain this footage?
What they find in the attic is nightmare fuel. It was late and Jason woke up, as he often does, craving a late night snack. He got out of bed and walked down the hall towards the kitchen, making sure to be quiet so he didn't wake his parents. As he rounded the corner, he saw it. A deranged looking man drinking milk straight from the carton. He ran to tell his parents, but when they got there, the man was gone. After searching the house, they decided it had been Jason's wild imagination, but Jason knew otherwise. A couple weeks later, it happened again, except this time the man was looking at Jason, watching him sleep from the air conditioning vent in his ceiling. But once again, his parents chalked it up to a young boy's wild imagination. Weeks went by and the foul odor started coming from Jason's room, and it reeked of death. Jason begged his parents to check the attic for the strange man. The smell had to be his doing. And when they did, what they found was disturbing. The deranged man was dead in the crawl space.
Yeah, you know, as young as kids are, if a kid ever tells me like,
yo, I just saw a guy just drinking milk from a carton downstairs in our kitchen,
I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh yeah, it's just your imagination, kid. I'm gonna literally be like, okay, we gotta put some cameras in this. Bro, his own dad was trying to pretty much put him as like a schizophrenic patient. Like, oh, it's just your wild imagination. Like, bro, come on.
She kept her secret lover hidden in the attic? Dolly Ostrich lived in Wisconsin with her husband Fred, and the marriage was a bit rocky. And one day, Dolly started an affair with a young man who worked at her husband's factory named Otto Sanhuber. At first, they handled the affair in the usual fashion, meeting up at hotels, sneaking around. But this got expensive, so Dolly had another idea. She asked Otto to quit his job and move into her attic. Otto agreed and lived in that attic for nearly 10 years. Coming out only during the day for trysts with Dolly, and at night sitting alone in the dark reading mysteries by candlelight in the attic. Even worse, Fred, the husband, was convinced that he was going crazy because he was hearing footsteps, mysterious sounds, seeing shadows. Obviously, he was hearing Otto, but when he confronted Dolly about this, she said, "You're crazy, go see a doctor." Dolly, the original gaslighter. If you want more on this bizarre story, check out the Avery After Dark podcast, because it gets even crazier from there, if you can believe it.
Early year of 1991, this is the last photo ever taken of Jared Negretti. Jared was a 13-year-old Boy Scout who went hiking with his fellow troops. As they were hiking up this 1,000-foot summit, Jared grew tired and his fellow Boy Scouts told him to wait there and they would be right back for him. However, when they returned, Jared was nowhere to be found. An extensive search turned up signs of Jared, including his footprints, his backpack, but most importantly, his camera. The camera had 12 photos, 11 of them being when he was with his fellow Boy Scouts, but the last photo was when he was by himself. The picture shows an eerie close-up of Jared's face, and this would be the last photo ever taken of him. Police and volunteers have put a collective 45,000 hours into searching for the remains of him, but it's almost like he completely vanished into thin air. It's been 31 years and there's not a single detail that's...
31 years is a lot of years. That boy's gone. I'm pretty sure we saw that in the last video. I was saying that he didn't really look too scared. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, well, his face, he looks frightened. I don't think so. I think he looked pretty stoic. Like, he was like, yeah, I'm ready for whatever is going to happen right now.
Who or what destroyed Dixie's car? In 2008, Dixie went outside on the patio to check on her cats. The cats were missing. Her husband was outside. He said to come over to the car, and this is what they find. She found pieces ripped out, scratch marks. One of the theories was that it was the lizard man terrorizing the town. Here are some of the pieces that was like ripped out. The sheriff came and took some blood samples, and here's what they found. So according to the University of California, the blood came from a dog. The sheriff and Dixie were still not convinced that this was caused by a dog, maybe a coyote. The official report was that this was caused by a dog, not the lizard man. But what do you guys think?
What could that car have possibly done to that dog that made him destroy it like that? Because I'm looking at it, I'm like, yo, that dog was... Because that's metal, dude. Oh my gosh. You can even see like a little bit of rustling. That's kind of crazy.
Let's talk about controversial horror movie, Possession. I'm gonna advise a slight trigger warning because I'm gonna show you one of my favorite scenes from this movie. Now, I watched the movie because it went viral on TikTok, and I see why. This movie gets crazy, and you need to watch it to see, okay? But I'll describe what happens. Possession is a 1981 horror film from Polish writer and director Andrzej Żuławski. Now, the film was banned in the UK and released in the US, but with 40 minutes cut from its original screen time.
Aux États-Unis, le film a été acheté d'une manière assez pirate par un imbécile qui l'a collé en double ticket avec un autre film d'horreur, et pour le coller en double ticket, il en a coupé la moitié. Donc ce fut une espèce d'escroquerie horrible et vulgaire, une grande brutalité.
Now, in the movie, we follow married couple Anna and Mark. Now, Anna wants a divorce, and Mark wants to know why, but she won't tell him why, and as he tries to figure out why, things get really crazy. Really, like, deeply, disturbingly crazy, okay? I'm talking very graphic and disturbing unaliving scenes, really disgusting imagery, and a tentacle scene, which I'm not gonna describe what happens because, you know, TikTok. It was so much that the UK literally named this as one of the top video nasties. Basically, a film that is too obscene. So yeah, however, like I said, a lot of those scenes were cut. It was 10 years later that the film would acquire cult status because the uncut version of the film was being more widely watched. That's when people were saying like, yeah, this is horrifyingly cool to watch. Yeah. One of the scenes that made me feel that way is this scene right here. I'm gonna show you. Now that scene goes on for another uncomfortable minute. Now if you want to experience this film, the whole uncut version is on Shudder right now. I highly recommend it, however, be prepared for some weird scenes, okay?
She says that the wife wanted a divorce with the husband, but the husband was trying to find out why. One thing I'll say from my experience as a male is if a girl ever wants to break up with you, there's no point even finding out why, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, they'll tell you anything. They'll run ropes, make you jump through loops, be like, oh yeah, this is the reason, when it's 100%, 9 times out of 10 is not the reason.
1 minute scary stories. Episode 2. My daughter woke me around 11:50 p.m. last night. My wife and I had picked her up from her friend Sally's birthday party, brought her home, and put her to bed. My wife went into the bedroom to read while I fell asleep watching the game. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging my shirt sleeve. "Guess how old I'm going to be next month?" "I don't know, beauty," I said as I slipped on my glasses. "How old?" She smiled and held up her fingers. "It is 7:30 a.m. now." My wife and I have been up with her for almost 8 hours. She still refuses to tell us where she got the fingers.
He's acting weird. I'm getting weird vibes.
Does anyone remember the Miami Zombie from 2012? This is Rudy Eugene, and back in 2012, when he was going to Urban Beach Week in Miami, his car broke down. He stayed with his car for about 30 minutes and then started to cross a 3-mile stretch of road called the MacArthur Crossway. As he was walking, he began stripping off his clothing, he got rid of his license, he had a Bible with him that he chucked, all around acting erratic. As he's walking, he runs into a homeless man, Ronald Papo, who was sleeping in the underpass of the causeway, and he proceeded to him unconscious, remove his clothing, and eat his face. This is not an over-exaggeration. He ate this man's face from the beard up. When police arrived on the scene, they gave commands to Eugene to stop eating this dude's face. He didn't listen. He just proceeded to growl and continued to eat this man's face. He was unalived at the scene. Trigger warning. There are pictures of Ronald Papo right after his face got eaten online. And there are pictures of how it's healed since then. He did survive.
Yeah, I don't know what type of substances that guy was on, man. You gotta be on, you can't be sober to do something like that. I promise you.
This is a scary game to play in real life called the card game. The card game is a paranormal ritual that allows you to contact the spirits of the dead. This game can be played with any amount of people. To start the game, turn off the lights in the room you're in and light the candle. Then sprinkle a little bit of salt on the cards. Then each person that is playing the game must shuffle the cards. Now lay out the cards face down in 3 groups of 6 cards. Each group of cards should be in 2 columns and 3 rows, just like this picture. Then say out loud, "Are the spirits willing to talk to us tonight?" Then hover your hands over the cards until you feel heat coming from one of them. Then turn over that card. Spirits will communicate through the cards. Hearts means yes, spades means no, diamonds mean maybe, and clubs mean I don't know. If anything bad starts to happen, end the game immediately. If you hear whispering or feel something touching you, stop playing.
Yeah, I don't know about y'all, but I'm never playing that game. All these demon games, yeah, never playing them. Even the Ouija board, not doing that.
Are there zombies in China? A video that was released has caused a lot of discussion on social media and news outlets. People are asking if this is the start of a zombie apocalypse, with some believing the video to be real. Others suggest it might be nothing more than an elaborate hoax, but regardless of whether or not it's true, one thing is certain. If there was a zombie outbreak happening in China, it would have abruptly been kept under wraps by the Chinese government. So what do you think? Is this the beginning of a zombie downfall, or simply just another internet hoax that we'll laugh about one day?
911 reporting. I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog. Something killed your dog? My dog went flying through the air over the tree. I don't know how it did it.
That was a real 911 call made from Kitsap, Washington in the year 1990, in which a man claimed that someone or something grabbed his dog and threw it over his 9-foot privacy fence, ultimately killing him. And the next time that he would call 911 would be far, far worse. The area known as Kitsap has been known to have all kinds of weird and odd sightings of something out there ever since people have occupied the land. This being is often what we refer to as Sasquatch. Now in the phone call he describes that there's something outside crawling around. He brings up the fact that his dog recently passed away and begs the police to send someone out there. All this is to build up to the moment that he actually realizes what he's looking at. Now I'm not going to sit here and say that I believe or don't believe this phone call. That is up to you to decide. Here's the call.
You're through the window down. I don't see anything. I don't want to go inside. You just quiet your butt. Hello? Get somebody out there. What's going on now, sir? That son of a is about 6'9". I don't know. You see him now, sir? Yes, I'm looking right at him. Okay, hang on. He's right. You see your bird, sir? Yeah, God, he's big. Okay, what's he see your yard? He's looking big.
This is why I don't stay at creepy cabins. In 2018, a man trying to escape city life was staying in a cabin in the mountains. One morning, he stepped outside. He discovered a red ball resting in his front yard. At first, he thought nothing of it, imagining that his neighbor's children must be tossing it over the fence. He kicked the ball back, went inside, and tried to resume his daily routine. But when night fell, he was awoken by the sound of children laughing outside his window. Determined to investigate, he rushed out of his house only to find that there were no children anywhere in sight. Yet the red ball was back on his property. Confused, he brought it inside his house and tried to sleep. The following day, he went over to his neighbor's house to complain about the kids, but he discovered that his neighbor was an old man living alone and there were no children in the area. That night, the man awoke once again to the sound of children playing on his property. He peered out the window, but there were no children to be seen, only the red ball resting on the ground. He ran downstairs to check on the ball he had brought inside, but it had vanished without a trace. Suddenly, he felt a chill run down his spine as he spotted a strange, stiff figure watching him from afar. The next day, the man left the cabin, never knowing who or what was outside. Should have chosen a different apartment. Sally was moving into a new apartment when she notices a crawl space above the ceiling but thinks nothing of it. One night while watching TV, she is frightened by a tiny woman out on her fire escape trying to break in. She hides and calls the cops while the intruder tries to open the locked windows. Moments later, Sally hears something crawling around above her and notices one of the ceiling tiles was missing. Then a deranged woman appeared staring from the hole before scurrying off back into the crawl space. It took the police 3 days to take the deranged woman into custody. She should have burned the house down. It was 1989 and Cindy just moved into her new home in California. She was sitting in her living room reading the paper when she hears a strange noise coming from the attic, as if someone was crawling around and tapping on the ceiling. Scared but wondering what was happening, she pulls down the attic access. That's when she saw it. A figure that appeared to be an older man staring right at her, and then he just disappeared. Sure it was a ghost, she called up a team of paranormal investigators, and what happens next proves something sinister was going on. Two men arrive, not sure that what they've been told was true. They walk through the front door and the lights just go out, and it's now pitch black in the home. Seconds later, one of the men lets out a scream and then goes silent. Not having a flashlight, the other investigator uses the camera flash to look around the room, capturing one of the creepiest photos in paranormal history. His partner is tied to a beam on the ceiling.
Stalkers caught on camera. While taking a walk, they noticed something strange. Two masked men is following them. At first, they thought that it was just a couple of friends pranking them, but soon realized they was wrong.
Bro, that was a fast video. He just said they were wrong. The video's over.
Recently, the internet has been abuzz with reports of some very strange sightings in national forests around the world. And I don't mean the animal kind. It began with a 5-year-old Reddit thread posted to the community r/nosleep. In the post, a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service decided to tell some of his creepiest stories from the job. By far the weirdest tale concerns numerous occasions in which he claims to have come across isolated staircases deep in the woods where no man has ever lived. The staircases have no other structure attached to them and look like they've fallen out of the sky, or like the rest of a house has been ripped away. The SAR officer goes on to explain that, at first, he was told the staircases were nothing to worry about, but the next time he asked to check them out, he was told by his superiors never to go near them. People in the replies chimed in with their own creepy staircase experiences.
It's real.
You don't talk about aliens
I don't.
much.
I'm not a big alien person. I got enough things going without worrying about it. But I'll tell you what, you have a lot of smart people that think that, there happens to be a certain site that's the #1 most visited site in the whole country. You know that,
What's
right?
that?
Where they think the aliens come down. And
I haven't been on that.
I'll tell you about it after.
I think he's talking about Area 51. I feel like a lot of people go visit Area 51 in Nevada and be like, oh yeah, the aliens are gonna come. We're gonna see aliens. I don't know. Until we see aliens, man, I don't know what's gonna happen.
A miracle. Lourdes, France has a reputation for miracles. The small town drew international attention when in 1858, a young girl named Bernadette claimed to see a vision of Mother Mary. Since then, Lourdes has been a destination for those seeking healing. And Jean-Pierre Belly was one of those people. Years before, Jean-Pierre had been diagnosed with MS and was confined to a wheelchair. So in 1987, he traveled to Lourdes. There, Jean-Pierre received the sacrament of the sick, and the next day, during Mass in the Rosary Square, Jean-Pierre felt something strange, something completely supernatural. He said, "I had the impression that everything was turning around me. In a fraction of a second, I lost all sense of time and space. God was coming to cure my heart." A powerful feeling of liberation and peace that he had never experienced before. After that, Jean-Pierre began to feel tingling in his legs. And a few days later, he took his first unaided steps. These were the first steps he had taken in years. Subsequent examinations would show the seemingly impossible happened. There were now only mere minor traces of the illness that had once dominated his life, and Jean-Pierre regained the complete use of his physical faculties. Though still a medical mystery, Jean-Pierre's cure was deemed an official miracle by the Vatican in 2002. But those with faith know it isn't a mystery at all. It's God.
God is so good. What are your thoughts on this amazing story?
I'm not gonna lie, that was an amazing story. That was a very, very good story. It's crazy how someone can go from being disabled just to being abled. Like, what?
These are a list of facts having to do with spirits. Number 1, did you know that spirits absolutely love the smell of lemon? So if you wanted to have a night in with a spirit, make sure you have some lemon flowing, light up a candle or whatnot. I mean, to each their own, but apparently they go crazy for it. Number 2, shadow people. The reason why shadow people take the form of a dark shadow is because it takes less energy for them to take that form. You're also more likely to see them at night because at night there is less electronic disturbances. Spirits absolutely do not like cell phones or any type of electronic devices because it drains their energy. Number 3, pets and children are extremely susceptible to being able to see spirits. For the most part, a child will outgrow it, but your pets won't. And fun little fact, cats actually ward off evil. I think we're at number 4. Spirits never sleep. There's no rest for the dead. That is a true saying. They can also read your mind and tell the future. A lot of times they will try to communicate with you through your dreams. Number 5, a spirit cannot harm you or unalive you in any way. They can cause a lot of disturbances in your life or make your life difficult, but they cannot physically hurt you. D words can though. And number 6, I actually have way more facts having to do with just spirits. So if you guys want me to do a part 2, just let me know. Did you know that churches are actually way more haunted than any cemetery?
Okay, churches being haunted more than cemeteries is a little bit sus. I wonder why. Mostly when church is supposed to be like a holy place where there's a lot of blessings and stuff. Why would it be haunted? If anything, shouldn't it be blessed with amazing spirits? Nah, I don't know. I was just thinking about that. I just had to laugh about it. I was like, yo, stop the cap. Stop the cap.
This is proof that we aren't alone. This video I'm about to show you might be the best UFO video ever captured. And if you don't believe in aliens, this video will definitely make you believe in them.
Alright, I don't know what they got going on in China, but that was very weird. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that's gotta be an alien if I'm being honest. Like, I'm looking at it like, there's no way that's just an airplane.
My sister and I were young. We lived in a charming old farmhouse. We loved exploring every corner, climbing the apple tree out back, but our favorite part was the ghost. We used to call her Mother, mainly because of her sweet, nurturing ways. Every morning, my sister and I would wake up to a glass cup next to our nightstand. We saw this as a sign of love, knowing that Mother was just worried about us and didn't want us to go thirsty during the night. There was an old antique wooden chair that had been left behind that we just kept pushed towards the wall. Anytime my sister and I would be watching TV, we would notice that the chair would slowly move towards us, like inch by inch. A lot of times the chair would end up right in the center of the room. We always felt bad having to push the chair back towards the wall because we saw this as Mother's way of wanting to spend time with us. Years later, long after we had moved out, I found an old newspaper clipping talking about the farmhouse's original owners. As it turns out, Mother was a widow that had unalived both of her kids. She unalived both of her children by giving them each a cup of poisoned milk. And as for the antique chair that would just randomly move by itself and somehow always end up in the center of the room, she had used this chair to climb on top and from the ceiling. I actually found photos of the original unaliving, and I saw her from the ceiling with this chair knocked over, sitting right in the center of the room where she would always move it to.
Have you ever wondered how offenders choose their victims? I started thinking about this because I've been watching the Jared Fogle documentary, and in it he specifically explains how he targeted kids that came from turbulent homes, or kids that he knew he could gain their parents' trust. So I started looking into it, and I read about how Ted Bundy also had a very specific and surprising way that he would choose his victims. Sure, he wanted college-age brunettes, but he would also pick out victims based on the way that they walked. He said that he could tell a victim by the way she walked down the street, the tilt of her head, and the manner in which she carried herself. And it turns out that that is a thing. There is a way people can walk that makes them look like easy targets. And this is specifically for stranger attacks. So this is when a stranger picks you out of a crowd and is like, that is my target. This also applies to everyone. It's not just female victims. But the study says that when shown videos of different people walking, criminals would pick out the people who had uneven walking patterns. These tend to be people who look less coordinated while they're walking.
But when people improved their coordination while walking, basically looking more confident while walking, they were looked at as less of a target. So head up, just look like you're going to a meeting wherever you go.
Bizarre mysteries and crimes that were solved by using Google Earth. In 2006, a small plane carrying 2 passengers went missing over the skies of Arizona. But the 2 passengers didn't follow flight plan, so no one knew what their route was, which made finding the crash site very difficult. But 3 years later, some cyber sleuths used Google Earth to find out the direction the plane was headed and eventually found the location of the lost plane crash. When David and his family weren't home, thieves stole their new camping trailer, which was sitting in their driveway. There were no suspects in the case until a year later when David's 11-year-old son looked up their house on Google Earth. It had captured the criminal on their driveway moments before the crime took place. The police would use this photo to find and arrest the suspect.
One of the most baffling unsolved cases ever, this is the mystery of room 2805. Police find that the woman found in that hotel room, Jennifer Fairgate, doesn't exist. They got no hits on her fingerprints found in the room either. So investigators travel back to the Belgian address that she gave at check-in. They felt that this had to be a lead, as the address and phone number given led to a specific town. But when they got there and asked around, they found that nobody in the town had ever even seen this woman. So what was the connection there? And it gets even stranger. Newspapers publicized this case repeatedly. Sketch photos of the mystery woman have circulated for decades in several countries. But no one has ever identified her. And this all transpired in 1995. No leads. Everywhere they turned was a dead end. But there was one question that a front desk associate had that could break the entire case wide open. According to her, she said the mystery woman wasn't alone at check-in that evening. She was with a man, one Louis Fairgate. She even named him on their registration paperwork. The plot thickens. So who is Louis Fairgate? But the bizarre thing is, no one ever saw this man again, and there was no trace of him in the hotel room. Only room service was ordered for one person, only her prints found at the scene. And police looked into Louis Fairgate to find that he doesn't exist either. So who was this man, and where did he go? And he has never been identified either, in decades. Did Louis Fairgate slip out the door that day with all her belongings? And what happened in that hotel room? Investigators say that whoever this woman was did a really great job at concealing her identity and say that this investigation has been like trying to track a ghost. I say that someone made her untraceable. And the question remains, who were these people? Were they on the run or undercover? This case is mind-bending. What are your thoughts?
I'm like recapping on all of this drama going on TikTok with Benefit Cosmetics and this girl, Slay by Jess. Let me recap real quick. So it's this brand, it's a makeup brand called Benefit Cosmetics. Allegedly, this involves this influencer, Slay by Jess, and all of it has to do with this girl. So basically, this girl got sent a video, I think from her sister or her friend, and they were like, you have to look at this video from Benefit Cosmetics. It was this video allegedly on the official Benefit Cosmetics page featuring this girl, this is Slay by Jess, pointing to this old picture of the other girl, and she's like, look at this girl's eyebrows, they're so far apart, I can help you with this with makeup. Pretty shady thing, and it's definitely wrong to use an old picture of this girl, but that's not the weird part about this. This picture is a private photo of hers. It has never been on the internet, apparently. From like 2019, and it's like from a private gallery on her phone. How did Benefit Cosmetics and this girl get this picture, and why are they using it?
Yeah, that is strange. That's like me putting a picture that I sent to like the homies and somehow some random on the internet has it.
I think we may have actually captured a photo of La Llorona. But quick little backstory before I show you guys the photo. This story was submitted by Vivian. I went ahead and tagged her. One night, Vivian's husband and her cousin were up late playing with the Xbox. Vivian's husband was at home with her and her cousin was at his house. They were both just sitting there talking through the mic when they both decided to go outside and smoke a cigarette. At which point, Vivian's husband decided to call her cousin through FaceTime. So as they're out there smoking a cigarette, just talking back and forth, Vivian's cousin notices that his cat is acting weird. His whole body's like hunched over. I'll show you guys a picture, and the hairs in the back of his neck are like standing up. He figures that probably a dog got into his yard, so he decided to walk down towards the driveway to see if he could see anything. But of course, he couldn't see anything. At which point he heard a woman scream. His first instinct was to drop to the ground right on his stomach and start crawling towards his house. I mean, he was terrified. Crazy part about the whole thing was that Vivian's husband, who was on FaceTime with him, did not hear the scream. Once her cousin got back to the porch, he told her husband what happened and decided to flip the camera in the direction that the scream came from. Her husband, of course, could not see anything, but decided to take a screenshot of the scream. This is when they finally saw what her cousin had heard. Now I'm going to show you guys the first initial photo she sent me, and then I'll show you guys the lightened version. Now this is the first one she sent me. You can see there the silhouette of something standing there. Now this is the more lightened version where you can really start to make out something just there. Now here's when I started to get really creeped out. I mean, this is a legit woman standing there with a veil on her head, screaming in the middle of the night. And here's another close-up. I mean, you can clearly make out a face beneath the veil. What do you guys think?
At first, I'm looking at it like, okay, it's nothing. And then she just did whatever she did, the exposure, brightness, whatever. I'm just like, yo, what is that?
I'm scrolling because this is one of Earth's scariest places, part 60. This one's super spooky. This is Hotel del Salto, located in the Tequendama Falls, right outside of Bogota, Colombia. It is one of the most haunted places in South America. This once stunning luxury hotel is now completely abandoned. Here's a little backstory. In 1923, this luxury hotel was built on a stunning waterfall with beautiful views and was meant for rich travelers. But over time, the nearby waterfall and lake became contaminated and ugly. This led to the decline of the popularity of the hotel, and eventually in 1990, it closed its doors. And the inside is completely abandoned. Everything in there is the exact way it was when it closed its doors. On top of that, there are multiple reports of suicide within its walls. According to local legend, a newlywed couple was staying there in the early 20th century, and the wife jumped off the balcony and into the waterfall. Ghost has roamed the halls for decades, and now that it's completely abandoned, it's even creepier. It's closed off to the public now, but people who have snuck in have reported seeing a ghost in a wedding dress. That's why you should.
Let's talk about this dead woman that solved her own murder. Her name was Teresita Bassa. In 1977, she was murdered and her jewelry was stolen. There were no suspects and the case was about to go cold. That was until Teresita's co-worker, Remy Chua, started getting visions of her. Remy said that Teresita was coming to her in these visions, and so she decided to contact her. Remy contacted her from the dead and in the end told the whole story of how she was murdered. She said it was done by a man named Alan Showery. Police went to go investigate and he confessed. So Teresita's spirit solved her case.
Yeah, nah, that'll be me, honestly. If I get hurt or something happened to me, I'm coming back from the grave like, yo, nah, he did it, man. It was him. Best believe I'm not going down like that.
This bathroom is straight out of a nightmare. This is by far the scariest bathroom in the world, and the real question is, would you use it? Okay, so this bathroom is located in a bar in Japan. And inside this haunting bathroom is a huge head looking at you while you're sitting on the toilet going to the bathroom. The face is then activated by the pressure of the seat, which it would then start singing a drunken song in the creepiest voice you've ever heard as it moves slowly closer to you, making the room smaller and smaller until its lips kisses your knees. I don't know why this is so unsettling and disturbing, but it is. There's just something about sitting on the bathroom and staring directly into this giant face as it's singing and moving closer to you, trying to kiss your knees. So only one question remains. Will you go to the bathroom in this bathroom? My answer is 100% no, because I probably won't even be able to go. And if I had to use the bathroom, I would just shut the lights off so I didn't have to look at it. Why is this a thing, and who came up with this to put this in a bathroom?
Yeah, I don't know what type of substances that person was taking that came up with that idea. It's like, just imagine you're out with your friends one night, you know what I'm saying, you had too much to drink, your stomach is starting to bubble, you're like, oh my god, I need to go to the bathroom, like I have no other choice. You go to the bathroom and you just hear this man starts singing songs and kiss your knee. Get out of here, bro. I'm not doing that.
Failed Doomsday Theories, Part 17, The Great Disappointment, which is also what my parents call me. Just kidding, but let's get into the video. And this man right here is William Miller. William Miller is a Baptist preacher who predicted that the rapture, the end of the world, the end of humanity as we knew it, would come between March 1843 and March 1844. He based his theories on extensive but misinterpreted studies of the Bible. He published so much about this theory that the media caught on, which caused his following to grow. His followers ended up calling themselves Millerites. But the year came and nothing happened. William Miller was wrong, and when they called him out, he pushed the day back again and again. Eventually, his followers caught on that he was lying. They were extremely disappointed and ended up shunning him from the religious community. You are not gonna believe this.
We're hearing about the McDonald's massacre? This took place back in July of 1984 in San Diego, California. Quick little rundown, this person, I won't even say his name because who cares, walked into a McDonald's and in a span of 77 minutes unalived 21 people. Most of them being children, the youngest being 4 months old. According to reports, before he left his home, he told his wife that he was going to go out and hunt humans. Now to get to my story time. This story was submitted by Zaina. I went ahead and tagged her down below. So when Zaina was younger, her and her family moved into an apartment located in San Diego, California. She later found out that it was actually the apartment that this person used to live in. She says that you could actually see the McDonald's right from her bedroom window because it was right down the road. So not long after moving into that apartment, Zaina says that her little brother would wake up in the middle of the night screaming at the top of his lungs without having any memory of it the next day. They would also see a tall, dark shadow figure standing at the doorway just staring at them while they slept. But that wasn't even the worst part. They actually had a doll that had become possessed by whatever was in this apartment. She said that she had a doll that looked like your average doll with the plastic mouth shut. One night she woke up to that doll standing there just smiling at her. At one point the doll even stuck its thumb in its mouth. Somehow Zaina gathered up the courage and ran to her mom's room screaming for help. The very next day, she gathered all of her dolls, gathered them in trash bags, and put them away. After she did this, her little brother told her that he was relieved because he had seen the doll smiling as well. The only difference was that the doll had teeth when it smiled at him. They also had several other unexplained events happening at that apartment. Everything stopped once they eventually moved out. But Zaina believes that the dark entity that was in this home was the gunman. My belief is that this dark entity is the reason why this person committed such a heinous act.
Or he could have just been mentally ill. Oh, wow.
So, who turned the light on? A man wrote, I used to work doing maintenance at historic properties, and there was one historic home I worked at when it wasn't open to the public. It was a part of a landmark site, so there was a visitor center with offices, and sometimes I worked with a crew, but there were a lot of times I just worked alone. One day I was working by myself to replace some electrical work on the exterior of the house. I went inside, turned off the circuit to the entire property, and tested it. It was off. I locked the doors, went outside to work. After about an hour, I got down from my ladder and started walking around the house when one of the lights inside the home turned on. I started to freak out, but thought maybe someone was playing a joke on me, so I called the visitor center and they confirmed that there was no one else at the house besides me and that all the keys to the house were present and accounted for. But I was freaked out and ran to get a coworker and made him come back with me to check out what was going on. But when we got to the house, the light was off again, but the bulb was still warm. All of the doors were locked and the circuit was still off. It still gives me shivers to this day. You're not kidding, we have shivers too. Ever experienced anything electronically supernatural like that?
Is it? And if I get another false allegation and you do nothing, I'm shocked. I'm appalled at you. I sit here day after day with this false allegation just machine. I gave the state everything. There's been no disconstruction. There's been no purposeful, I don't care. I don't care. I give over everything. I've done this for 33 years. Never in my life have I seen a trial. I've done 300 appeals in the state of Georgia alone. I've never read a case like this. Judge, I gave them everything I had. I waited. I was at my office till 8, after 8 last night. I waited for their investigator to come by. I handed him an exact copy of thumb drive. They have everything that we got from the Fayette County Jail. There's been no deconstruction. There's been no purposeful exclusion. This is not the first time. Okay. And I apologize that I'm getting tempered, but I've never been treated like this. You talk about professionalism every week. Professionalism is lacking with one lawyer here. It has never been. I don't even like coming to court. I used to love this. I would die for what we do. I used to say, I'm dying. I would die. I couldn't choose a better profession. If I had litigate with Miss Love, I would.
Your Honor, could we strike the
no,
hominem attack?
No, I'm speaking.
Really, could we strike that?
Okay, hey, everybody, calm down. Everybody, both of you, please be seated.
Judge, I'm not
Both
done.
of you, please be seated.
You have to do something. You have threatened me with contempt. You have threatened me with jail. If you go back in time, we can just start in voir dire. Jury after jury, you did individual voir dire painfully. Miss Love would come in and say that juror was crying. It was not true. You would say, that's not my recollection after I said it. You did nothing. We start the case.
But Mr. Steele.
I asked you, please.
Mr. Steele.
Please, Judge, how would you feel if you were being treated
Mr.
like
Steele.
this?
Mr.
Well,
Steele.
I'd like to finish.
Mr. Steele.
Yeah, it's getting really heated over there in that YSL case. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people thinking that Young Thug is gonna get found guilty, but they might appeal it and he might get let out. But I don't know, man. It's a little bit tricky, but we'll see what happens. I just found it funny that the lawyer has a lot of things to say about this case. Like, I don't know, the case has been really messy, I'm not gonna lie. If you guys like Young Thug or ever listen to any of his music, put it down in the comments. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this video, remember, let's just get to 500 likes. If you're not subscribed, subscribe.
It's raining worms in China right now. Okay, recently there's been a lot of weird things going on in China. Like them finding a new island covered in dinosaurs. And now apparently it's raining worms.
All went well until one terrible night in the 1950s when the school principal snapped and killed four of the young girls in his care.
10 years after the disappearance of flight MH370, the search for the Malaysia Airlines plane could resume. Here's the latest on the investigation.
Heard of You're Next on the Menu? The story goes like, there was a young woman who started a bed and breakfast. She put a listing on the internet looking for a private chef to hire for the bed and breakfast to make the guests breakfast before they leave. A private chef reached out to her and they set up a time for the chef to come over to the bed and breakfast and make a trial breakfast to see if they would like to hire the chef to make breakfast for the guests. When the chef got there, she was acting a little strange, but they didn't really think anything of it. She wasn't talking much, and when she did talk, she made very strange comments. The bed and breakfast owners gave the chef some privacy to make the breakfast in the kitchen, and when the chef was done, she served them up a plate of food. She served them up a plate of pancakes, but only they weren't real pancakes. The chef had served the young woman a plate of a skinned human face. This is actually the plot of my new YouTube video, so if you want to watch it, just click the link in my bio or type in my YouTube username and subscribe.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 44. There is a type of shark species known as the Greenland shark that can live upwards of 200 years. One, because it is adapted to the cold water in the Arctic Ocean, and the second reason is because it'll eat anything that falls in the water. That means polar bears, penguins, and anything up above. If you were to travel to space in a spaceship, traveling the speed of light, let's say at age 15, when you came back 5 years later, you would be 20, but all of your friends, well, they'd be 65. There is a condition known as the Cotard syndrome, otherwise known as the walking corpse syndrome, in which people suffer from believing that they have never existed and that they have been dead this whole time. If you go to a Catholic priest and tell him that you murdered somebody, they can't say a word because of Catholic law, and they will keep your secret. Please don't get any ideas.
It's a scary story about the lemonade. One day, a boy named Craig was walking down the street when he suddenly saw a lemonade stand. He was thirsty and he loved lemonade, so he walked over and asked the man who was working for a cup. The man was very old and was dressed in old-fashioned clothes. This confused Craig, but he ignored it after he took a sip of the lemonade. It was the best lemonade he ever tasted. Craig then said, "Whoa, I have to go get my friend." Craig then ran to his friend's house and told him about the lemonade. His friend then ran back to the lemonade stand with him. But when they got to the spot it was at, it was gone. Craig was extremely confused. Craig's friend then asked him who was working the stand. Craig then said a creepy old man who was wearing old-fashioned clothes. Craig's friend then said, "I thought it was fake until now, but there's a ghost of an old man in the area who sells lemonade, and whoever drinks it has 2 days to live."
I don't know if it's just me, but that's a little creepy. Like, how are you gonna just sell lemonade to people and be like, whoever drinks it, it's over for you. You're done.
Why is this little girl in the middle of the woods alone? Okay, so one night a hunter was looking through his trail cam footage when he suddenly came across this. It shows a young girl in a nightgown in the middle of the woods at night alone, right next to 2 deer. The man says he's never seen this little girl before and has no idea who she is. Most people think this is a ghost or a little girl who escaped a kidnapper. Either way, something is extremely creepy about this photo, because why is a little girl in the middle of the woods at night? This picture is a complete mystery to this day, and I wonder what she was actually doing there.
It's a little bit strange how the deer were all just chill. Like, they're all just there, just like, all right, I'm good. Like, they didn't try to run away from her or anything. I don't think it was a ghost, though. It might have been someone's kid. Rip.
This is my go-to like campfire story. I don't think I ever told this one.
Hit me.
So once upon a time, there was this old lady that lives in her house with a dog. Just her dog alone.
Okay.
And whenever she goes to bed, she would always drop her hand nearby her bed and wait for a dog to lick her hand. So that's how she knows like the dog's right beside it. So one day comes, she eats dinner, she does her nightly routine,
right?
And she goes to bed. She goes to her bed, lies down, puts her arm down, waiting for the lick from her dog, right?
Okay.
She gets the lick on her hand.
Yeah.
And she goes to sleep. Now she's awakened by a sound of a drip.
A drip.
Drip, drip. And she wakes up. She's like, okay, let me check the washroom. She goes to the washroom and she sees, oh shit, it's the sink. Like, it's dripping.
Yeah.
So she tightens the knobs. It stops dripping. She goes back to her bed. Goes to sleep again. Drops her hand down. Waits for the lick. She gets a lick from her dog. Goes to sleep. Now she's awakened the second time. And she's like, what is that? So she goes up. She takes the washroom. Now it's the shower. The shower is dripping, right? Like, okay, turn the knobs, tighten it, whatever. Go back to bed.
Yeah.
Put her hand down, get the lick. Goes to sleep, right?
Right.
Now she wakes up again and she hears the dripping, but it's coming from the basement this time. So she goes down to her basement.
Yeah.
She walks down and she hears the drip getting closer and closer, right?
Okay.
And she sees her dog hung by a rope.
Okay.
Dripping blood from its head.
Whoa.
Onto the floor.
What the hell?
And then on the wall,
yeah,
it says, humans can lick too.
No! Oh! Wait! So a human was licking her the entire time?
A human was licking her hand.
No! This is the scary story about the man at the window. One night, a man was laying in his bed and it was raining outside. There was lightning and thunder and the man could not sleep. His house was in the middle of nowhere, and he had no curtains on his bedroom windows, so he had a good view of the fields behind his house. It was pitch black outside, and every time lightning struck, it lit up the whole landscape for a split second. All of a sudden, during one flash, the man saw a figure standing in his field. It was a man covered in all black. He was just standing there staring at the house. With every flash of lightning, the man got closer and closer to the house, until he was right outside the man's window. The man's room was pitch dark, and he was completely terrified. When the next flash of lightning came, the guy was not at his window anymore, but instead standing right over him on his bed. The man then jumped out of his bed and ran out of his room. He then got his cell phone and called the police. When the police arrived, they did not find any trace of the man that was in his house. Ever since that night, the man prayed before bed every single night, hoping that man never returned.
Now, if another man has to make you pray to not come back to your house, that's insane. I feel like he'll be good, though. I don't think he's gonna come back. At least that's what I think.
The urban legend of
the Devil's Gate.
Libertyville in northern Illinois is famous for a scary urban legend about a creepy-looking gate on a deserted country road and the horrifying events that occurred there.
If you drive about a mile north of Libertyville, down the desolate and secluded River Road, you'll come to a place where the road makes a sharp right turn.
If you look very closely, set back from the road, you will find a menacing-looking iron gate.
According to local legend, in the 1920s, the Libertyville Gate was the entrance to an exclusive girls' finishing school.
It was a quiet and polished place where young girls from Chicago's well-to-do families were able to receive a proper education.
All went well until one terrible night in the 1950s when the school principal snapped and killed 4 of the young girls in his care.
As the legend goes, the mild-mannered principal inexplicably lost his mind one night and in a fit of madness, the girls.
Then, for unknown reasons, he chopped off their heads, carried them down to the gate, and placed them on top of the spikes.
Their bodies were never found, and the principal was arrested and tried for his crime. The authorities tried to hush up the whole incident, but parents refused to send their children to the school, and it had to close down.
As time went on, the horrible murders were forgotten. The girls' school was demolished, and by the 1950s, the property was being used as a sleepaway camp for boys
All was well until one horrible night in 1963 when a camp counselor discovered that 4 young boys were missing from their tent.
In the dark, the counselors searched the grounds for the missing children, but they could find no trace of them.
As it grew lighter, they approached the gate and discovered the remains of the missing boys.
Their severed heads had been stuck on the spikes of the iron gate. Their bodies were never found and their killer was never identified.
The police suspected that one of the camp counselors had committed the crime, but there was never enough evidence to prove it.
After the scandal, the camp was forced to close down and the property has lain vacant ever since.
It is said that the gate is haunted by the children who died there. People passing by the gate at night claim to have heard the sounds of children crying and screaming.
Others claim to have seen blood running down the wrought iron supports of the gate.
They say that if you go to the gate at midnight on the anniversary of the murders, you will see the phantom heads of the girls and boys appear on the rusted spikes.
Their eyes will be staring straight at you, and their mouths will be moving, stretching wide open as if they are silently screaming.
I'm not trying to scare you guys, but you need to hear about this. In 2013, the CIA declassified a 1966 document called the Adam and Eve Story. The document was written by somebody named Chan Thomas. The document is just over 50 pages and it discusses cataclysms that happened throughout our ancient past. The document claims that civilization and humanity had been reset multiple times due to the Earth's poles flipping, with the disturbing message that it will happen again. Chan Thomas said this cataclysm will cause massive earthquakes and tsunamis, with apocalyptic flooding. Weirdly, 30 years after the document was released, a full-length book was released and it's much longer. But the Adam and Eve story raises a lot of questions, like why is the CIA talking about this document? And why would the CIA classify this document from 1966 to 2013? Do they know something that we don't know?
I feel like the CIA knows like 99.9% of information that we all don't know. There's like a lot of info out there, and I truly feel like the CIA knows way more than we naturally already know.
This is why you should never go to McDonald's late at night. One night, a teen and his friends were out driving around. It was around midnight when they started to get hungry. They were looking for places that were still open and saw McDonald's nearby. It was open, so that's where they decided to go. When they got there, they ordered their food and sat down. That's when they heard banging on the window next to them. They looked out the window to see a bloody man screaming and banging on the window, saying he was gonna come and kill them. They quickly ran to block the door so he couldn't get in, and they called the cops. When the cops made it, the man already ran off and no leads were found on who the man was or where he went.
5 of the scariest sentences.
There was a picture on my phone of me sleeping. I live alone.
You hear your mom calling you into the kitchen. As you're going down there, you hear a whisper from the closet saying, "Don't go down there, honey. I heard it as well."
I woke up to hear knocking on glass. At first I thought it was the window, until I heard it again coming from the mirror.
I can't move, breathe, speak, or hear. If I knew it was going to be this lonely, I would have been cremated instead.
My sister says that my mummy killed her. My mummy said I don't have a sister.
This is why you should always trust your gut. In the early 1970s, a college student decided to hitchhike his way home after class. A car pulls up, a man offers him a ride, and he climbs in. As soon as the car started moving, the student felt totally uneasy, like something was wrong but he couldn't quite place it. Without saying anything, he waited till the next time they slowed down and he flung the door open and ran away. 2 years later, he's flicking through TV channels when he comes across this special interview with a death row inmate, and it's just the audio recording, so he hears the interviewer ask the inmate, "Why did you remove all the door handles inside of your car?" The man just goes, "Well, the first time I tried to kill someone, I picked up a college hitchhiker who got smart at some point and jumped out of my car. So, lesson learned, remove all the door handles." When they showed his picture, the student knew immediately that he was supposed to be the first victim of John Wayne Gacy, aka the killer clown, who had killed over 30 men and boys in his clown room and stuffed them into his basement.
I might be getting the times wrong, like maybe it was later, but don't cars like kind of automatically lock when you... I mean, I don't know what year John Gacy was really running around killing people, so I'm pretty sure car doors just lock. Right? Just automatically? Am I tripping?
There have been so many cases of time travelers, bro. Did you see the one about the guy at the Mike Tyson fight?
With the iPhone, right?
Bro, I don't know if it's an iPhone, but he has a smartphone.
Yeah.
How do you have a smartphone in 1998?
Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna be honest, right? We cover a lot of conspiracy theories on this goddamn podcast. A lot of them, I'm like, I don't know if I believe it. It's just interesting to talk about. But like, the more I do research into it, I'm like, there's too many instances.
A recent news story of a demon in a child's bedroom. What do you think?
Tori McKenzie is begging for help online after capturing what she describes as a demon standing over her grandchild's bed. Miss McKenzie set up a motion-activated camera at her son's house after complaints his 2-year-old daughter Amber was talking to something unseen in the middle of the night. The grandma checked her camera's app days later to find a bone-chilling image of a figure standing very close to her sleeping grandchildren with what she described as it having a horn on its head and long claws. The creature is captured standing awkwardly, looking upwards just before 3 a.m. Miss McKenzie says when she tried to rid the house of the evil presence by burning oils, she claimed cabinets and curtains opened and closed and music began to play by itself. The grandmother insists the discovery has left her fearing for her grandchildren's lives and that the photo is real and could not be photoshopped because she does not have the technical know-how to change the image.
To me, someone could have just broken into their house and was like, all right, well, I'm going to stand over this baby. So that's what I think.
Won't believe what this couple caught on their home surveillance. Amy and Joey Radkeefe had set up CCTV footage in their home to watch their pets while they were away. And they ended up catching a creepy figure of a woman dressed in a nightgown. Watch this video. Did y'all see that? Cause I did. And then the cats get spooked and run away. Well, apparently, this woman in the nightgown was a woman that passed away in their building. Other residents who have also lived here have also seen this creepy woman. Bro, if that was me, I'd move out so fast. Make sure you check me out on YouTube, a link in bio for more scary, random, funny stuff.
This is one of the most mysterious things that has ever happened in the abandoned town of Stonebrook. So Stonebrook was this town that was historically really dependent on mining, but once that industry kind of got up and left, almost 100% of the town's population followed. But there were still security cameras that were left over. CCTV cameras that were left over from the late 90s started to capture and transmit what appeared to be a single person who was living in that town. And what's really eerie about this footage is that they're mostly seen alone, but they're just kind of standing there. They're not really doing anything or looking anywhere. Eventually, those cameras started to transmit to people, and the footage just got eerier because I don't even know how to explain the context of a photo like this. Still, all of this footage is very far away, right? We never really got a close-up shot of that original person until we got this in 2001. This added to the haunting collection of footage of the unknown person in that town. To this day, the lone resident of Stonebrook kind of remains this haunting relic of a forgotten city.
The home is so haunted, it was legally declared so by the New York Supreme Court. Most commonly known as the Ghostbusters ruling, the case centers around one Lavetta Place in Nyack, New York. The Ackley family lived in the home for decades and during their time had many paranormal encounters. Hearing footsteps and voices, the family awoke every morning to their beds shaking, and were even visited by the spirits in the home who donned clothing from centuries past. Locals knew it as the ghost house, but when Helen Ackley was older and widowed, she put the home up for sale in the 90s. Helen told the couple who wanted to buy it that the home was haunted, but they were okay with it and put a down payment on the home. Until a week or so later, they tried to back out of the deal, and to recover their deposit, they sued Helen Ackley. And the spooky case ended up in the New York Supreme Court. The couple argued they weren't made aware of how haunted the home was, and a judge ruled in their favor and deemed the Ackley home the first legally haunted home in America. If you want the full story, check out the Avery After Dark podcast episode on this case. It is wild. And what are your thoughts? Do you think you should have to tell a buyer if your home is haunted?
I mean, morally, I feel like you should be like, yo, I'm not gonna lie, there be some spooky stuff going on around here at night, so I just want you to be aware. But like, financially, you're kind of just like, man, it's a house, you gonna buy the house or not? Like, you know, you tell a buyer if a house is haunted? Put your thoughts down in the comments.
What these guys caught on camera will freak you out. Watch the video and I'll explain after. So that slithery thing that looks like a snake wearing a wig is called a krasu. It's a famous ghost in Southeast Asia folklore. The ghost appears as a female with long black hair, with her organs on the outside. In a legend from Thailand, a beautiful princess was executed for loving someone of a lower status. She was going to be burned alive, but before, she told a witch to cast a spell on her to save her. However, the spell was put on her too late, so it only saved this part of her. That's why her organs are on the outside. So what do you think? Did these guys capture this spirit? Because what is that? For more freaky stuff, follow me on YouTube.
Practically, the whole new classroom just exploded. Strange notes would be left on the front door of the schoolhouse. School officials reported the schoolhouse haunted. This story takes place at the Wild Plum Schoolhouse, located near Plum Creek, 1944, North Dakota. Lawrence Daily Journal published a story titled Jitterbug Cole Closes a School. Teacher and children report mysterious events. Hoping for answers, the Fire Marshal Charles, he sent the Cole to the FBI. The public had questions. People were terrorized. When you live in a small town, people talk and they want answers.
These are videos humans were never meant to see, part 22. Okay, so we all know how terrifying black holes are. But I guarantee you never heard what a black hole sounds like. The video I'm about to show you shows you exactly what a black hole sounds like. And it's absolutely disturbing.
Part of me feels like space is another version of the ocean, if that makes sense, on a bigger scale. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, it's like a different version of the ocean. Just think about it.
There's something really wrong with this deer. It might just be a skinwalker.
Don't let him stand your ass. It's awful. We've been big in a couple years. Something's wrong with you. I'd run into your car. Oh my God.
I mean, the poor thing might just be really sick. If you want to learn more about skinwalkers, check out my recent video. I talk about all things skinwalker and give you some creepy facts. Link in bio.
1 minute scary stories. Episode 3. Monster under the bed. My son had not quite been himself today. I couldn't put my finger on it, but he just didn't seem right. I shrugged it off, thinking he may just be feeling out of sorts. I begin tucking him into bed, and he tells me, "Daddy, check for monsters under my bed." I look underneath for his amusement. And there I see him, another him, under the bed, staring back at me, quivering and whispering, "Daddy, there's something in my bed."
If I was a father, that would be such a mind freak, man. I would be in my head just like, yo, I wouldn't know what to do, man. Let me know in the comments what you would do.
It's raining worms in China right now. Okay, recently there's been a lot of weird things going on in China. Like them finding a new island covered in dinosaurs. And now apparently it's raining worms. It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but there's actually a video proving it. Who would have thought we would ever see a day where it's raining worms? They even told all of their citizens to carry umbrellas so they don't get hit by the worms.
That doesn't even look real. How do you get raining worms? It's definitely like an airplane that like accidentally unloaded a bunch of worms or something. Has to be.
10 years after the disappearance of flight MH370, the search for the Malaysia Airlines plane could resume. Here's the latest on the investigation. But first, a recap. MH370 was a flight that departed from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to Beijing on March 8, 2014. The Boeing 777 took off at 4:41 local time with 239 people on board. At 1:30 a.m., as the plane had just entered Vietnamese airspace, the plane suddenly disappeared, as seen here on flight radar. There were search efforts for MH370 for over 4 years, mainly by the Australian, Malaysian, and Chinese governments, then by the American company Ocean Infinity. On May 29, 2018, the Malaysian government officially announced the end of the search, as many relatives of the passengers continue to demand new search efforts 10 years after the disappearance. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim made this statement on Monday, March 4, 2024.
If there are compelling case, evidence that need to be reopened, we will certainly be happy to reopen, because whatever need to be done must be done.
Back in 2018, a 400-page official report presented by the Malaysian government established that the investigation team is unable to determine the true cause of the disappearance of MH370. Witnesses reported seeing a ball of fire in the sky on the night of the crash and traces of fuel in the water near the location of the disappearance, but no piece of the plane was officially found on site. A few days after the disappearance, Malaysian authorities stated that the Boeing 777's communications had been disabled, that the change of course was the result of a deliberate action, and that the plane had continued to fly for nearly 7 hours, effectively expanding the search perimeter well beyond the Malaysian and Vietnamese coasts. Several other leads were then explored: terrorist hijacking, suicidal action by the pilot. However, according to a 2017 DGSI report, there was nothing suspicious in the profiles of the 227 passengers and 12 crew members. Still, according to French investigators, it is likely that the pilot flew the plane to the end, but nothing supports the suicide theory. Relatives of passengers and some journalists also mention the possibility of the plane being destroyed by a missile, a theory that has never been confirmed. Debris from the plane has since been found very far from the initial search area, in Reunion, Madagascar, and Tanzania. These debris are considered to be probably or certainly from flight MH370.
That really makes you try to think, like, what really happened? Because all of a sudden, everything, they're saying no one looked really suspicious. Everything was going well. The pilots didn't really sound or look suicidal. So that the missile theory would make the most sense, because the debris of the parts of it were all over the place. But at the same time, I feel like you'd be able to track that in a way. Someone in the comments of that video was like, oh, it's kind of crazy how we could find planets light years away, but we can't find a plane that literally had its signal on or off or something like that. And I was like, it's low-key true. How can we know about these planets, but we don't even know about a plane that just randomly disappeared like this? Like, come on, bro. Maybe whoever is looking into it don't have the money for that, I guess. Anyways, if you guys liked the video, please like the video. Remember to check the chains down in the description. Love y'all.